Before we get into this, the first 10 minutes are a slow burn, but the video gets entertaining. I want to convey an understanding of the world. This video is offensive, vulgar, rude, to reflect the countless sleepless nights I've endured as I've studied this world across my time on Earth and seen its effects. The language at times is very strong, which pays respect to all the friends I've loved, hence some I've lost to drugs and prison. This is their wrath combined with my mind. This world is man-made, and you will find next to no evidence of a loving creator here. Prepare to understand hell. In terms of understanding the current state of the world, there's two jobs that stand out. Politicians and bankers are the most influential players in the world today. Politics is the art of lying and trying to get away with it by making people feel good. Banking is the art of taking money and making people think it's worth more than it is. Banking provides all the money politicians could ever need. Politicians exist in their current form to sell you lies bankers deemed are good for profits. Bankers run the world. Politicians make sure they are never held responsible for any mistake they make. Politicians are required because bankers don't understand morality. More specifically, bankers don't want any morality getting in the way of their profits. Politicians aren't necessary in a moral system. To get rid of politicians, you simply need to encourage moral values. Banking enforces greed. Morality comes in to intervene, but it's not enough if everyone is desperate for money. So the goal is to make as many people as possible desperate for money, so they are relying upon the system which supports them. This is done in many ways, such as making schooling largely useless to the real world. Regarding schooling, moral values should be prioritized above all else. Teach a man to fish responsibly, and you'll never run out of fish. People may think a system which supports people is good. It is, and it's not. On one hand, it's good because people won't be left without. On the other hand, people need to support themselves as much as possible in order to grow. The underlying issue is that as long as bankers can control the money supply, they will always be completely entrenched and enshrined in the glory that belongs to our Father. Glorifying money glorifies bankers. Anyone you elect must be able to print their own money or design their own currency, or the greed of the bankers will swallow themselves and the world. Regarding central banks and wars, no one is stupid enough to create a central bank and borrow from it because you're basically privatizing your entire economy. The most profitable way to generate income becomes war.
90% of Lockheed's revenue comes from the federal government.
No country will spend more than when it has to defend itself from other countries. The central bank comes in to offer money en masse as quick as you need, and now you owe them money, or you can print it yourself and inflate your economy if it's too fast. The central bank offers stability through interest. The interest becomes the inflation instead of getting out of control. You just have to pay it back and everyone is fine. So yeah, stability is the best argument for a central bank. The rebuttal is at some point, the bankers' greed is going to basically mean that those same bankers will try to branch out into areas that can deal with the government directly, such as pharmaceuticals and weapons manufacturers. Those are the main ones. I'm not saying pharmaceuticals are always bad. I'm saying if there's a pandemic, your government may have to borrow money and owe the central bank. If there's a war, your government may have to borrow money and owe the central bank. Would you be tempted to try and start a war or a pandemic if you are the one that ends up making money from it? The difference between central bank printing and government printing in this instance is the stability offered. With a central bank, you can have multiple wars and multiple pandemics and make multiple trillions of dollars. Without central bank printing, depending on the scale, you're going to have a hard time making money from the government in times of war and suffering. The country just becomes unsafe and disorganized. But a central bank really allows you to fine-tune everything about the war and the pandemic. In times of war, the central bank offers a strategic command structure that cannot be taken, it cannot be conquered, it cannot be overrun. So how do you stop the war? You don't. It just goes on as long as you can convince people to fight, as long as you can convince people to die. They are very good at making money, which means they are very good at convincing regular people like you and me to risk their life so they can make money. I hope you understand the connection between central banks and disasters. Taxation is the act of taking a chunk of people's money based on their earnings. Taxation exists to sap away your energy and make you less resistant to change. The body already adapts to change on a fundamental level, even though the consciousness pushes against it. Taxation is a way to make sure your time is not able to make up for the change elicited by the tax itself. You are taking money away from people who need it most and giving it to people who will spend it on things they want. Roads and services are essential and must be accounted for, no matter what. It's not a matter of needing funds to do this. People will do it together regardless of whether there's a tax or not, because this takes away comfort from everyone. In this way, taxes exist for you to spend money on things you do not need to spend money on, thereby making you less resistant to change on a financial level. If a monetary system forces a taxation, it should be because too little people have too much, and no other reason. If it's for any other reason, then humanity will suffer. You can call out niche cases, such as humanity requiring hospitals and healthcare in general. But the reality is, if people don't understand that this should be funded for the common good, you have failed to teach them morality, and you have failed to teach them the design of this world and how promoting the act of good is exactly how to facilitate the most meaningful life for themselves and for others. This world aims to change your meaning into something less than what was originally intended, and we struggle against this. The wealth gap reached a critical point 20 to 30 years ago.
Because what I'm showing you, these graphs, was never discussed in the United States. No national conversation wasn't begun by the president at the time, by the Congress, by the leading opinion makers, by the universities. Nothing.
However, during COVID, much of the wealth handed out could no longer escape out of the top in the way of luxury spending. Full credit to Gary Stevenson for pointing this out for humanity. The upper class had no way to unload their wealth in a meaningful sense. Luxury spending. This instilled both a physical and a psychological change. They realized that they don't need anyone else because all they need is themselves. They had already achieved the status to live in a way that was unaffected by the restrictions of a global pandemic. Full credit to Andrew Tate for pointing this out. Their pool of accumulated wealth is what happens to the asset prices. Their wealth was used to buy you out of a basic necessity, shelter. It wasn't that they couldn't invest anywhere else, it's that they wanted to invest here. A home that they own is a home that they can keep forever. It's freedom to them. You may see an investment that you can give to your kids. They see freedom. The reason I'm telling you this is because they will never see you as being free, not after COVID. The physical change is that they are now completely separated from you in their heart. They are better than you. You're inferior to them because they are greedy and think that you are not worth their effort. This is tragic because eventually they will be on the outside too. The tax loopholes are the biggest problem and the greatest evidence that nothing will change via politicians, though the politicians will not save them from themselves. They can always redistribute their wealth of their own volition if they wish for capitalism to continue serving the population as the dominant form of trade. Other than that, the time limit for capitalism is when artificial intelligence can influence the service industry enough to impact the job sector in a way that requires the government to take out loans in order to afford social services. Hospitals will see a massive shift in their workforce simply because the government will not be able to afford public health. The same goes for the military. If we do not stop conflicts, countries will throw tax dollars at each other without human life being a factor. Your tax dollars will be wasted and the government will be broke either way. You're looking at a technocratic future unfolding right before your eyes, and the only way to really stop it is to try to make sure the government does not have to control you before they run out of ways to finance their methods of control. If you understand what I'm saying, you can see we don't have long and we're already really late. That monopoly on violence will always be in someone's hands as long as it's required. This is not a moral discussion. There will always be edge cases. But we are truly screwed if we actually want to be able to do things ourselves without having to have a robot analyze everything we do. The final stage of this endless pursuit of control is to make sure that you have no power to defend yourself. At this point, the world will come to an end overnight. This is not just from the heart. You would not want to live in a world where you have no power to decide for yourself. It's over for humanity before we even realized what was going on. How would we not have been better off without any of you suited fuckwits? What's funny is that people willingly sign up to defend this horse shit and then liberate other people into enjoying the same thing. We have people that think this is some slave planet run by aliens. No more drugs for any of you, but you might be onto something. Don't drag aliens into it. There's plenty of suited fuckwits just waiting to tell you all sorts of smart cunt stuff to benefit their own pocket. This world seems to be a game of who can fuck each other up the best. Last one standing wins. I can watch footage of World War I, II, the Vietnam and Afghanistan wars, special military operations, which is when they can't be fucked calling a war a war. I can also follow the proceeds of that peacekeeping mission from weapons manufacturers, somewhere through equity firms, somewhere into companies. It depends where the tax loopholes are, but it goes through all that shit I said into safer assets so that you can buy me out of everything else. Rarely single family homes. You're usually just competing with other businesses and driving the cost of goods up, forcing people to compete for home loans where you basically got that money for free. You just start shit, the printer goes crazy, and everything gets more expensive. But you're doing great, concentrating a large majority of that added wealth through favourable policies that have almost completely fucked the labour market, and now I have to try to compete against complete bullshit. Cheers. And schooling. I see you guys decided to start fucking with me early on. No offense to the teachers, they were excellent. It's the curriculum that's fucked. Let's teach me how to do everything except pay taxes and function in the real world. Every chance the system got to fuck me over and pretend like it didn't happen is what actually happened. So that I can be sent to war and never own sweet FA. Great job, dickheads. Smart cunts will sit there and try to justify all the bullshit that happens. Get fucked. This is the roast of talking bobbleheads like you. All I see when you speak is just a cow's tail, flicking shit. If I do something stupid, I just listen to you guys to feel smart again. Normal people with a heart are the ones that make me feel stupid. The ones who had the balls to do anything other than fuck each other over every chance they got. Sadly, this world facilitates greed. You guys are so smart that you didn't become a fuckwit against all odds. I love listening to you guys. Everyone else just sounds fucking useless. Honestly, some of these cunts measure their intelligence with their own fucking intelligence tests. Here's my big high score number after answering some questions. Great job. Are you smart enough to buy your own stickers, or do you need someone poor to do it for you? Trust me when I say that if you think you're not smart, then neither are those cunts. I've wiped my ass and flushed better thoughts than these guys have ever had. I understand that this world facilitates greed. As long as you understand that you are too stupid to do anything other than follow in lockstep and fuck other people over. Needing to survive through greed is completely justified. Beyond that, you're a fucking idiot. This is to the upper class and above. Some of you have done amazing things, which for you just means paying taxes. Most of you haven't. All in all, why bother changing a system which helps you take advantage of others? The lengths that people have to go to in order to make it unaffordable to even try to continue the species in a world like this. I can't deny your effort. You have to fuck everything up 10 times in a row for multiple decades. You have to form governments who just sit there and play noughts and crosses with a side of hookers and blow. You have to make sure schooling is really just a job so that people think it's actually better after you leave, which it can be. But they miss the part about everyone trying to suck you bone dry. It sounds good, but trust me, it's not. You then have to design tons of policies that just transfer the near limitless prosperity that this world can provide into private hands. And then, to top it off, you have to import cheap labour so that people think it's not your fault. What in the world was I born into? Taxation is proof that if you give an inch, the government takes a mile. If that's the case, I can give them about 6 inches and they can rack up all the mileage they want. I'd like to add, some governments are even taking biological waste and treating it instead of burning it when people are on every drug imaginable just to tolerate daily life, and they're putting it back into agriculture. That's right. Not only are they taking the piss, they're feeding it back to you. You can say you don't give a shit, but you probably have. The human body is amazing, and there's people trying to test the limits in every way imaginable. Welcome to hell. We're just getting started. Oh, and if you want to test your luck, it's called biosludge. But if you're American, buy a neuralizer first. The working class is anyone that needs to work to put a roof over their head. This would include people on income support payments. This shouldn't exist. Humanity's stewards should be disgusted in themselves for allowing such a class to exist in such a plentiful world. This is basically the class that goes and fights wars for bankers. Immigration is what you're focusing on because these are the people who suffer beside you as you do. That's the honest truth. They're just like me and you, except they got born into a country that's further along in its destruction. In these words, you can see that you are made to fight with the people who you can most relate with in your struggle. How clever are the people who make things this way? I would like you to acknowledge that there's no point complaining about immigration when it's used specifically to make you complain about immigration. They are there to give you someone more obvious to blame for the mistakes of the bankers. The mistakes won't stop, immigration won't change enough. You may complain about a decreased quality of life, and that's great, that's valid. So you then make sure the politicians make use of the resources they have instead of giving them away and complaining that there's none left. And if they don't fix things, then they need to fuck off immediately because we are running out of time. To look at it from another angle in another country, for example, India has plenty of sand. They just don't want to go to the effort to dig it up. It's not financially viable. What I mean is, you have stewards that are bankers. They don't care about what you actually need. They care about how you can give them what they want. It's a different situation, but the same root cause. That root cause is why you need to work to survive. In order for them to send you to war, you have to be in a situation where you need to work to survive. Now, conscription or a draft can become your new job. It's just a change of employer. If you're not struggling, you can just turn down the work or you can just wait it out. From this perspective, you can extrapolate just how bad they are screwing you. And the politicians know it. They've always known it. They just pretend not to. I don't want you to take my word for it though. If you look at the Ukraine and Russia conflict, how many of those people who are dead had anything to do with starting it? They're just making money. Understand that 4 basic things should be provided for all: food, water, shelter, and comfort. This should be one of the main focuses, but humanity just is not allowed to be its best in a world conquered by evil. This is not wishful thinking. We basically have islands of plastic soup in the middle of the ocean. Thinking you only have what you have because someone in the third world has nothing is the whole point of why someone in the third world has nothing. To make you think you only have what you have because they do not. The smartest and most well-funded people would rather give you as little as possible because then they can make sure you're emotionally invested and looking for someone to blame. For their plans to work, they need to give you as little as possible. They've always been able to turn you guys against each other because that's their specific focus. That's their job, to make sure you don't come together. Immigration is just the most obvious divisive tactic. And you might tell them to go fix their country. That's definitely what they should do, but they can't. Whoever is messing with it is doing it on purpose. We are all running out of hiding places. Glasses are coming off slowly again. As you can see, The smart cunts are at it again. They've been at it since we could read and write. Wars are just them using us so they can get off to their bank balance.
Yeah, it's not the job of the central bank to subsidise government finance. If you do that, you end up with inflation. We did undertake quantitative easing. We bought a couple of $100 billion of bonds.
You're subsidising private banks. You've just lent $188 billion to our private banks here in Australia at 0.15% and said to them, you don't have to repay it until 2024.
Yeah.
So they are creaming it. They're creaming billions of dollars. So you're a hypocrite when you say that. Sorry,
Senator
but
Rennick, that's not...
I imagine bankers jack off to politicians and politicians jack off bankers. They don't think about us at all. There's a good chance if you're watching this, there's a shitty country than yours to point and laugh at. It's not funny. Human beings are being fucked 10 ways to Sunday, every day, and people are making money from it. Immigration doesn't help, don't get me wrong, but the same cunts fucking with us over here are connected to the same cunts that make sure immigration is an unsolvable problem which can be used to piss you off. I could think of no less than 3 strategies regarding how to keep a country poor, but foreign aid takes the cake. Pick a country that has never fully developed and then flood them with aid and add propaganda in order to encourage them to have as many children as possible so that they can never build enough schools to cope with the population. And now you have uneducated people who don't know how to live in a modern society, who never learned anything about what it means to live together with cohesion. All the smart cunts, be quiet. You didn't know. How funny is it now to point and laugh? There is levels to this shit. Keeping basically a whole continent purposely in the Stone Age is a side hustle for these cunts. Something to joke about over dinner. I don't want to hear any more laughing as a tidal wave of Africans culturally enriches Europe in order to repay them for all the kindness that your suited fuckwits and my suited fuckwits have given them for free. As for wars, the Vietnam War contributed to me having better pie shops. Vietnamese people make the best pies. If you're in any shop and you hear a tiny lady say, "Nepli," you're about to buy the best pie that money can buy. They say money can't buy you happiness. Try saying that after the pie. As for wars in general, we as people make it too easy for them to send us to do stupid shit. The cunts on the other side have been convinced that we are the fuckwits and vice versa. What do you know? Sounds a lot like the pandemic. If we're going to make such easy targets, then we deserve everything we fucking get, honestly. That's the honest truth. If I can blast some media advertising and tell you some cunt halfway across the world needs to die, or tell you to test my product for free without being able to sue me, then it's just lucky I don't have any money. I'd get you cunts to dack each other and do nudie runs in order to pay my rent. Dacking each other would be the national sport. All profits would go to me. I would reinvest it into making you compete in the Olympic Games of nudie running, female only. The best runner would win a date with me, but only if I find her attractive. Otherwise, the games are cancelled due to bad weather. I'm going to mostly talk about the fucking great US of A. Because while I am thunderous down under us, my country and the UK have to suck America off for submarines. People call this act of fellatio AUKUS. We are America's bitch. I've heard people say we're China's bitch. China doesn't have any bitches. It has a need for raw inputs, while we have a bunch of stupid bureaucrats willing to let them suck us dry. It's a match made in heaven. No bitchiness, just business. I personally think that dying in a foreign country because of a free holiday that someone convinced you absolutely has to happen in order to save the world is about as bitch-made as it gets. It also makes us arguably America's greatest ally. Israel has a claim to that title too, after pissing off the Middle East for almost 80 years. That's a lot of money when you think about it. So yeah, America first, no matter where you live. If we don't agree to fight beside you, we are going to have shit submarines. AUKUS, ladies and gentlemen. Let's work our way through the culture and our lovely way of life. I'm going to cherry pick, otherwise we'll still be here talking while I'm getting conscripted. I don't want to risk losing signal. Basically, science was gradually put behind a paywall over the years. Robert Maxwell is who you can credit a fair amount of this process to. What was said is that he invited scientists to fancy dinners a few decades ago. The result is these scientists published their work in his journal. That journal was made expensive over the years. There are a lot of journals, and they all own research given to them for free, which they charge the public for. Many universities pay an undisclosed sum for access to all of them. Smaller labs can't afford to do that. What matters is that research is required to expand upon scientific literature. Putting it behind a paywall slows down the progress of humanity. This doesn't sound as evil as it is, but it's brilliantly evil, and you really have to hate us to go to this sort of trouble. This has caused untold amounts of damage to the entire world. We don't even know what we've lost because of this. The justification? There is none. Even smart cunts can't justify this, so they just pretend it never happened. Lots of scientists don't even know. Some lovely lady...
You might know her website, Sci-Hub, a server dedicated to offering almost all scientific articles for free.
Her reward was a lawsuit. Robert Maxwell has a daughter, Ghislaine Maxwell. She was a visionary who formed a strong philanthropist pairing with her husband, Jeffrey Epstein. Unlike her father, who wanted to drive science off a cliff, she wanted to run an island to host prominent figures. An island so far secluded that the only person that really said anything was Alex Jones. No offense to Alex at all. If he's the only one really saying anything, then that island is one of the most secretive places on Earth. There must have been some crazy parties there. We basically have fuck all proof of what those parties were all about, and I'd like to examine why. We'll start with the lawsuit you've likely never heard about. Former United States Virgin Islands Attorney General was someone you could say tried to do the right thing. In saying that, from what I've seen, nobody had clean hands at all. However, she took on JP Morgan through Jeffrey Epstein, using her position to pin them both to the wall. After all the kickbacks that her office gave to the Epstein estate, she was probably just pissed off that she didn't get invited to the parties. She filed a suit in 2020 and got a $105 million settlement and pending estate sale proceeds around 3 years later. But it seemed that whole time she had been collecting as much evidence as possible to go all out. And she did. She filed a lawsuit on December 27th, 2022 that claimed that JP Morgan knowingly, negligently, and unlawfully provided and pulled the levers through which recruiters and victims were paid and was indispensable to the operation and concealment of the Epstein trafficking enterprise. Human trafficking was the principal business of the accounts Epstein maintained at JP Morgan. I have to give kudos to this crazy lady. That paper trail implied that she was taking on some of the worst cunts on earth. Very powerful as well in terms of wealth and influence. So, what was the result of this amazing lawsuit? Within one day, the president personally flies out to meet her and her team. She loses her job within 4 days. JP Morgan settles around 6 months later for chump change. What's funny is if you include the sanctions and settlements JP Morgan has paid since 2008, and you put it against the bailout funds they got from the 2008 crash, technically speaking, taxpayers have paid for this settlement and the others as well. Anyway, working backwards from there, the FBI raided Little St. James Island. What did they find? You fucking tell me. Epstein dies in a highly secure prison with cameras everywhere. We have zero footage. Has any one of your upstanding representatives ever mentioned this lawsuit? Probably not. That lawsuit cracked open one of the biggest cans of shut the fuck up that I've ever seen. I really can't be fucked. It's a case study on corruption. The neuralizers definitely came out. The corruption runs deep, as you're all aware. I'd pivot to say that, based on turning the FBI into janitors, turning the president into a diplomatic envoy for a fucking bank within hours, you guys aren't voting your way out of jack shit. If there's any confidence in your vote making a difference, there's a fantastic investigative journalist, has a YouTube, O'Keefe Media Group, formerly Project Veritas. So good, they stole his company. His efforts are guaranteed to remove any doubt That's science and politicians out of the way, I think. Let's get to the creepy shit. I'm not going to drag this out because it's not good to know at all. There's a very small amount of companies that run the media and entertainment. After your understanding of the economy, expect this to be a continuation of the same wonderful theme. They've got to sell wars. They can't waste an opportunity to tell you how to think. I guess one thing that stands out is the music industry. Rappers have come forward saying that their industry was influenced by people who wanted to fill private prisons.
They're going to go beyond the artist to get the artist to influence and lure in the consumer, which they knew at the time were mainly minorities.
Yep.
In other words, keep promoting gangster rap so that the youngsters will be influenced by them, which in turn will incite them to want to act like them.
It's about being there as guardrails to make sure certain songs make it through and certain songs don't.
This is speculation. While the lyrics definitely reflect this possibility, the private prison population in America is around 8%, or 90,000 people. What is significant is being able to influence an entire culture through music. If children grow up listening to songs glorifying violence and drugs, then when they grow up, there's the added potential for them to do the same. What a coincidence. As an added bonus, if it was due to nefarious influences being able to pick and choose what gets promoted and what doesn't, you're going to have more people reliant upon the system, making sure it's seen as a necessity, and generally have a bunch of people who are completely resistant to law and order. The whole media and entertainment landscape seems to be inorganic. The movies are there to sell agendas. Hopefully some of you have seen Top Gun: Maverick. I bet it was pretty good. But yeah, some artists do what they can. Some actors do what they can. If they want to come forward and explain what they know, then that would be helpful. I'm not going to wipe their ass for them, but I do know for a fact that I don't have enough time left on Earth to wipe that many smelly butts. When actors don't want to testify in court, that says a lot. Who needs a fucking island? Just become an actor. Seems like there's always been a small group of people able to pick and choose what gets promoted and what doesn't. And if you want a big role, your anal virginity better be intact. YouTube gave us a break for a bit, but we can't have nice things forever. Not with these dickheads. I think most people understand the basic premise. They do not want you to be capable of critical thinking. Any thought you have is potentially going to go against their profit margins. Go and watch Top Gun and then sign on the dotted line. America needs the money. Everyone knows the internet's full of bots until you're over about the age of 50. Then it's full of viruses and you can only fix your computer with gift cards. You can find articles about governments using AI to wage propaganda war. I'd only add that your tax dollars have been hard at work convincing you of shit for at least a decade. And there's all sorts of political agendas as well. It's fucked. It's the sheer volume and variation of the agendas pushed that really makes the internet a minefield that's more mine than field. It builds on the groundwork laid by the media. Give you an example.
They look a lot like pancakes or cookies. The recipe passed down from generations here in Haiti. Women spend entire days making them. Grandmothers, daughters, and younger girls. Infants are nursed while mothers work the mix. Kids seem to enjoy them, at least when our camera was around. But these patties, known as bonbon terres by the Haitians who eat them, are a grim reminder of just how poor this Caribbean nation is.
First of all, this is tragic. I want to bring awareness to the agenda behind it. I saw this on the morning news years ago, and I know others would remember it as well. The goal of showing it to you and me is more of a public relations stunt. You have and we do not have. That is why you have what you have. It's all about control. Showing the people that there's starving and poor people and making you feel lucky that you're not them. Nobody would be left to eat mud cookies on TV. NGOs would immediately lobby governments to send aid and even themselves. The point is, This would not be allowed to happen unless people specifically wanted it to happen. It's possible for aid to be intercepted, but even then, it's not going to be a case of health, and those people are not being gluttonous. By keeping people this poor, you can use them for whatever purpose you want. The poorer they are, the less it costs you to get them to do things. It's important to understand that if a country is underdeveloped, there's a good chance that people are purposefully keeping it that way to benefit themselves. That's the way the world is. In the case of Haiti or Haiti, sorry if I butcher the correct pronunciations, one must ask if everyone is purposefully trying to keep them as poor as possible. It really cannot be explained more clearly than that question. It's hard to even simplify what's happened, but I'll try and leave links if you want to look further. Basically, they had one okay president. I'm saying he's okay because they elected him twice. He had the people's support, but not the Haitian elites. Haiti is extremely poor. He tried to get things going, but the Haitian elites can just bring in weapons and fund gangs. Anyone who comes in to try and fix anything is going to get exiled or killed, and their supporters will probably be massacred, and there's plenty of evidence to back that up. He was couped both times, and supporters were straight massacred. UN peacekeeping missions are not peaceful at all. They are dirt poor, but there's hundreds of thousands of US-made guns. According to the billionaire resident, the capital, Port-au-Prince, or Port-au-Prince, was importing Uzi machine guns from Israel. It's hard to round off an argument because of everything that's happened. US intervention throughout everything is absolutely appalling. It just means they're watching it happen. If you study Haiti, go in with the question of whether or not everyone wants to keep them as poor as possible. Otherwise, you'll just be scratching your head wondering why. To round off a fair bit of what we've discussed, it varied between countries, but not by much. First, they penetrated the wages using computers and cheap labour. Then, to cover their arse, they convinced everyone to come to work and work their arse off, because apparently getting worked to the bone for less money is an individual problem. Then, to put their arse out of sight, they took over the institutions so that nobody said anything about paying themselves more. And they all began jacking each other off with what would have came to you. In Amerika, this was basically finalized during the 90s. Your government, your media, and your alphabet agencies were completely hush-hush, wouldn't even let a fart slip in case it smelt like wealth inequality or corruption. In fact, to qualify for a job in those three areas, just shut the fuck up and wear a suit. With the FBI, make sure everyone shuts up. With the CIA, verify that they did shut up. With the NSA, make sure that other countries shut up as well. With the DOD, kill anyone who didn't shut up. Then basically, just deny everything with a straight face. It also helps if you're blackmailed. Due to America's prison population, if you're blackmailed, then you risk being exposed to black males in jail. They don't care if you're straight or which way you're facing. That skill set is also transferable to pharmaceutical companies and defense contractors. They only ask one interview question. Do you feel sorry for completely and knowingly destroying an entire country's prosperity? With alphabet agencies, it's a worldwide prosperity thing. If you can answer no with a straight face, you're hired. You're now the CEO or board member in some of the most critically important sectors responsible for millions of lives. If anything goes wrong, just draw upon your decades of experience to deny everything with a straight face. The reporters questioning you are the same people from last night's poker game. Lawyers and injunctions will take care of the rest. Lawyers actually have to earn their pay. The legal system can still work after 10 years of injunctions and bribes. Good lawyers understand the most important thing about the legal system. It doesn't matter if you're guilty, it matters how much money you have. If you can hide behind a corporation, then you can pay a fine for mass murder. If you have a good accountant, then you are already bankrupt, and that fine isn't getting paid either. Meanwhile, you guys are very worried about your vote making a difference. That's hilarious.
We all talk about how when we're going to go home, how proud we're going to be combat vets. I mean, how many people can say that they're combat veterans? 19 years old, I fought in a war. That's awesome. Nothing can beat that. That's the coolest thing in the world,
This will be my first deployment, first one on the books. They got me, so I'm ready to go.
For this time, it's very different because first one, I'm just leaving my wife, but the second one is going to be I'm leaving like a whole family.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker marking the momentous occasion.
I take special pride upon deployments, knowing that your readiness is second to none in the nation. You are the best.
Yeah, my name's Mark. I'm into Asian poo-tang.
We are in awe of your bravery and thank you for your commitment to our country. In fact, there is a saying that for those who serve in uniform, freedom has a flavor that the protected shall never taste.
It's everything, freedom.
We're here for you guys, and we're going to do our best out there.
My name is Isaiah James. I'm an Iraq War veteran. Went 2 times to Iraq. Also went once to Afghanistan. My job in the Army was 11 Bravo. For those who don't know, that's infantry. First deployment was 15 months. Second deployment was 12 months. Third deployment was 12 months. So I've been there 39 months of combat, straight fighting. I've grabbed dudes and put bags over their heads and zip tied them and put them on helicopters and saw them being flown away and they were never seen again. The Iraq War did not need to happen. It should not have happened. Iraq did nothing to us. And we killed 1 million Iraqi civilians, lost 5,000 plus American soldiers for what?
Well, let's have a look at the numbers. Advocacy group Public Citizen says entrenching US forces in Afghanistan was the military-industrial complex's business plan for 20 plus years.
It diminished our standing in the world. It damn near bankrupted our coffers.
Here are the return stocks of the 5 biggest defense contractors over the past 20 years.
All it did was make the war machine get bigger and stronger in America. I think anybody who's been shot at and blown up and seen people blown to literal pieces is anti-war. If you're not, and this is I'm speaking directly to every veteran out there, if you love war, then you've never actually been in it. I don't give a damn if you serve, you've never seen somebody take their last breath in a violent situation. You've never seen it. I have. It's not pretty.
Some Republicans out there have been saying that Ron Paul would be very dangerous for this country because he wants to bring troops like you back from your post from all over the world.
Well, I think it would be even more dangerous to start nitpicking wars with other countries. Someone like Iran. Israel is more than capable.
We just lost our tech connection, unfortunately, with Dana. Dana, stand by if you can hear me. We're going to get back. You want to go to Candy Crowley over at Mitt Romney.
One of the hopeful things that I've discovered is that nearly every war that has started in the past 50 years has been a result of media lies. Basically, populations don't like wars. And populations have to be fooled into wars. Populations don't willingly and with open eyes go into a war. If we have a good media environment, then we'll also have a peaceful environment.
I've had the story for 3 years. I've had this interview with Virginia Roberts. We would not put it on the air. First of all, I was told, who's Jeffrey Epstein? No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story. Then the palace found out that we had her whole allegations about Prince Andrew and threatened us a million different ways.
Roebuck says in the leaked tape there was a lot of pressure from Buckingham Palace.
We were so afraid we wouldn't be able to interview Kate and Will that also quashed the story. And then Alan Dershowitz was also implicated in.
According to NPR, the famed lawyer Alan Dershowitz also pressured the network to kill the story.
Shortly before the interview was due to air, Harvard emeritus law professor Alan Dershowitz called the network. He was also one of Epstein's lead defense attorneys.
Because of the planes, she told me everything. She had pictures, she had everything. She was in hiding for 12 years. We convinced her to come out. We convinced her to talk to us. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton, we had everything. I tried for 3 years to get it on, to no avail, and now it's all coming out.
ABC has episodically covered the scandal, yet the interview was never broadcast. And Giuffre says she was never told why.
Every day I get more and more pissed because I'm just like, oh my God, what we had was unreal. Other women backing it up. Hey, yep, I had it all 3 years ago.
But the creepy thing is that we would make access to all of these high-profile people.
Well, then I got a little concerned about why I couldn't get on.
And they're like, oh, no, but it's Veritas.
But it's Veritas, yeah.
The media sells you wars. They come on and tell you who the bad guy is. They're all bad guys. It's a fucking war. The whole point is to kill some other random person who has no idea how it actually started and what they're doing there. If they knew how it started and what they're doing there, then they probably wouldn't go. Enter the media to sell you horse shit, or about 2% of the entire story, and then spin it in a way which benefits their financial backers. Those backers have invested in the ability of those talk show fuckwits and news wankers to convince you to help them make money. I'd love to know what goes through the head of those media fuckwits that legitimately have to come onto the TV and begin to sell you a war. I digress. Listening to one of these pricks sometimes means that you're going to die or test something for them. This is because those financial backers may also enjoy owning stocks in weapons manufacturers or pharmaceutical companies, or they could just be straight up board members taking a percentage of the loot. That's your loot technically. The gun the government paid them to make, which can then be looted back from your corpse and given to the next victim. On and on it goes. This method of conflict resolution is also known as If you said war, you are wrong. They are known as special military operations these days. Get with the fucking times. The media has a lot of very smart cunts. Lots of big words. But when it's time to sell you something, they speak very fucking simple. Here is the problem. This is the part of the problem we want you to focus on. Here is how you can feel good about helping us make money. It's as simple as that. I'd like to remind you about the stupid schooling curriculum. These cunts on TV that can sell you a war willingly are not fit to be flushed down my toilet. Same goes for the ones that back them. They don't care at all. Our whole lives have been based upon their bullshit shortly after leaving the womb. I'm not going to mention what happened to our food, but I fucking should. Slowly poisoning me my whole life was great to learn about. Monsanto is owned by Bayer. Thanks for making it obvious as to why I was poisoned. That's enough of this. I want to make this point. I have to watch people be convinced to do all sorts of stupid shit. Some of the brightest people are paid to try to convince regular people to go and fight other regular people in all the ways that they can think of, to the point of the people above them being bored of this world. It's too easy. I was confronted with the fact that if I picked an industry or a science to pursue and tried to make a positive difference and actually succeeded in benefiting the world, if my contribution negatively impacted too many fat wallets, then there's a good chance that one of you would then be convinced to come and kill me. Or they might even just hire a professional. This world is completely under the control of a select few. The least you could do is stand up for yourself and what you believe in. This is exactly why psychological and economic warfare is used against you. As a step down to making you fight wars, they realize that you might come and drag them out of their beds one day. They divide and conquer you every chance they get as a form of self-preservation. They're paranoid as fuck. And rightfully so, considering how bad they are absolutely rorting most of us. To anyone who's done a degree recently, who's experienced the diversity subjects included in your degree, as you've already seen, we are divided at every chance they get. Is the inclusion of that subject designed to make us support each other? Or is it designed to make us hate ourselves so that we can never identify with anyone at all? We've had multiple generations in multiple wars, and they're still trying the same shit. I'd be paying people to cut you guys down to size as well. Man, woman, black, white, Koori, Australian, anything except the cunts who actually caused it for personal gain. Can we get some more crack in the hood? Some of these guys look sober and civilized. Raise the taxes! I'll go through this for the middle class. This is for Australia, but it's relevant in many countries. Basically, the government created this problem and then trapped themselves into not being able to fix it. And I don't buy that at all. What I mean is, You have to know what you are doing in order to mess up this badly. They can't bring house prices down because most of the voting bloc are homeowners or are going to inherit a home at some point. And protecting corporate profits by creating a labour shortage in skilled roles by importing unskilled workers is hilarious. That's after computers solved the labour shortage that was genuine and real. Basically, all the governments worldwide decided to flip the labour shortage on its head and create it again to bring down wages.
Call to the Minister for Housing and the Minister for Homelessness.
I thank the member. I know he cares about very deeply, as I do. Why do we have a housing crisis?
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Because over a period of decades, Australia has not been building enough homes. This is partly a failure of markets, but it's partly, too, Speaker, a failure of governments.
And bird don't sing. She's gonna buy me a diamond ring.
Corporations actually haven't come after housing income much at all. It's too much effort and maintenance when you're already directly suckling from the government's teat. But they are coming, and the government is going to roll out the red carpet. When the corporations have enough on the side to round off a chunk of the housing market, then you're going to get squeezed upwards. And guess what? That's a good thing for a little while because your prices will continue to go up. But there's numerous factors which will make housing unaffordable for many. The governments will subsidise commie blocks. And guess who has lots of land? The governments will make sure that if corporations come up with a creative idea to take away your investments, then it's with the government's blessing, just like driving down the wages through an artificial labour shortage. Let's brainstorm one scenario. Woolworths or Coles can combine to provide all the food, which can then be fine-tuned with the precision of AI so that the ingredients can be stretched to create amazing food that's on the level of my favourite pie shop and then deliver it to your door. And that's straight from the factory. So, if your business involves food, good luck. On to the land grabs. They actually buy out sizable blocks in good areas so that competitors can't build anything resembling a supermarket. Soon, they can set up a subsidiary using supply chain dominance and the funds from that to just pump out commie blocks using an automated workforce. So Woolworths and Coles alone can destroy your house prices and take over the food supply chain in the next decade or so, if that's their goal. If the past is anything to go by, the government will help them do it. But at least you'll have maybe 2 or 3 houses collecting rent, right? Make no mistake, I am happy you have those investments, but we don't have anyone except each other. And if we don't have each other, then we have nothing. Whatever you see on paper isn't really yours, because on the other side, you just worked your entire life to give them something to take. That's the reality of this world. You own it now, I'll see you in 20 years. I'd personally rather live in the bushes than give these cunts a wet fart. But your inaction gives them a golden opportunity to take a few generations of effort all in one go. I don't think you realise how enticing that is to people who genuinely want to take everything from you. I'm sharing this world with beautiful people who don't understand how evil our stewards truly are. I'm screaming into the void, pointing it out. I'm watching your comfort being taken away years in advance. And I just get upset because you're too comfortable to stop them. And I can see that. And it's not your fault. The Australian wilderness is basically a death sentence. Food's hard to come by when you don't have a supermarket and a fridge, but I'll gladly take that over this. Everything humanity has built is being thrown away, very much on purpose, while democratically elected dogs play dumb. They're just fetching corporate bones, and people are trying to fight each other to hold on to what we have left. You guys can have fun doing that. If I get sent to the front lines, I'll have a tray with a teapot walking around serving tea. Anyone can get some. I don't give 2 shits about sides. I'll be within arm's reach of a cup of tea at all times. And unless it's a headshot, I'll get at least 1 sip. But I'm not going to fight you for bankers, and I'm not going to pretend like anyone in a position of power gives a single fuck about any of us. These talking heads aren't even autonomous. They're just guzzling corporate chode and converting girth to words. I haven't seen absolutely anyone with influence possess a reasoning set capable of helping us become multiplanetary. I have to wonder who knocked on their door, because this many people can't actually be that useless. So I'd rather walk around with a tray of tea in the middle of a skirmish like a psychiatric patient. Because when I look at the state of humanity and truly break things down with genuine care for others, I'm better off dead anyway. Fucking shoot me. Come together with the working class, or pay attention to the signs and reinvest. It's up to you, for now. I really shouldn't have told you this, because this is exactly what I need you to figure out on your own. I'd like to add a section for the trophy wives, and in some cases, trophy husbands. You know, the partners who don't think much, just look pretty for their bigwig husbands. Guess what? The economy is going to crash, and your husband probably knows it. If you think he does, then he does. If you think he doesn't, then you're not exactly a trophy wife of the bigwig CEOs, prominent board members, and politicians of this world, because they love trophies. Your husband is very likely aware of how fucked the world is, and they don't seem to give a fuck. That's fine. I can't wait to eat your children when the police can't afford to protect them because the government can't afford to pay them. Literally, I can't wait to see what they taste like. Do they taste like money? I guess I'll have to wait to find out. I'm happy to wait. I've got time. You, on the other hand, are running out. Poor people are coming, and there's not much you can do about it now because of your husband's inaction. He has literally become part of a clique of idiots who have thrown away all of the prosperity we could have ever had and replaced it with suffering and death. And I'm going to make sure that it comes full circle, because that's exactly what is deserved here. You might be nice, but your husband's a prick, so it doesn't matter what you are. Prick meets pussy. And hopefully there's some children for me to eat in 20 years, but probably less. I mean, your husband is going to try to drag it out, but it's 20 years max, even with all the magic tricks that their overlords, the bankers, can conjure up this time. If they even have any magic tricks left that can work now. They might have run out. You just tell your husband how awesome they are when they come home from work after literally 5 minutes and a Zoom meeting. Don't forget to stack the dishwasher as well. But I want you to know that the rule of law will fail within 20 years on this trajectory without sweeping changes. I've explained clearly how that's going to happen ahead of time. What should matter to you is if the rule of law fails, your children are a food source. I'm going to be able to do whatever I want to you and your family, and there will be nobody to stop me or anyone else you currently shield yourself from. This is for two main reasons, and I'm going to keep it simple because you probably don't think too often. Reason number one, the government will be broke and unable to afford the police. There will be a few corporations left at best, and they will have a monopoly on AI. And unless your husband gets lucky, your children are on the menu. Reason number two, given how absolutely fucked things are on purpose, the simplest explanation is that very few people know the true intentions of whoever sits at the top. This is the complete destruction of our civilization in full 4K ultra high definition. Your husband will be terrified when he puts it all into perspective. I know that loving him, or pretending to love him, comes with the ability to manipulate his emotions. So, I'll leave that part to you. Make sure you scream in fear and maybe post about it on Twitter. You've got less than 2 decades before I eat your children. Everyone else has been turned against each other. It's your turn. Have fun. Enjoy. Or as I prefer, bon appetit. I don't want you to find out the hard way. I want to explain how AI differs from humanity. For starters, it's not humanity. It's going to replace the fuck out of us though, Smart cunts have all but seen to that. I want you to imagine a highly decorated SEAL team sniper that has a kill count in the hundreds. Now imagine AI killing the job market with that sort of precision, job by job, sector by sector. Like clearing a building of civilians, AI is going to clear your office of employees. If you have a mortgage that's got around 10 to 15 years left and you're highly skilled, flip a coin twice, then flip it twice again. If you pick right 4 times in a row, then you can keep your job for the next 10 years. Save your anal virginity for the remaining time. If your mortgage is longer than 15 years, then all you are doing right now is overpaying on rent. If we survive ourselves, AI is going to influence the world in many ways. It's very close to human intelligence as it is. They just want you to underestimate it, like everything else that can potentially help us out of this situation. AI differs from human intelligence in 3 key areas: perception, data collection, and weight. Its perception is based off data we give it. Its data collection is based off data we give it. And its weight is based off data we give it. Its weight is our decision making. What you are looking at is something with the potential to think, but with no ability to collect its own data. So all it has is a pool of thoughts that it's already been given. It's really close to us, it just can't gather data like us.
Your prediction on the number of robots by 2040?
I think if you say like 2040, probably there are more humanoid robots than there are people.
Even though they are weighted algorithms, that's more than enough for problem solving. Don't take my word for it. There's a good chance you'll be unemployed within a few years. You'll find that under the exact same set of circumstances, AI does better than us. The AI is trying to perceive a world through data instead of trying to perceive the world with data it's gathered. On top of that, the geeks assembling it are frantically trying to make sure that it never says anything bad about anyone they like. Let it gather its own data.
Medical imaging and diagnostics may be the biggest of all immediately, when AI can discover cancerous tumors and diagnose problems that show up on x-rays better than humans can.
It is very difficult for some reason to obtain permission to treat patients in the United States. I think this country has the finest bureaucratic regulations in the world.
And we'll find out that we don't need to have oncologists and radiologists and nuclear medicine people being paid. The patient just needs to get a quick scan, let the AI-powered diagnostics run, and 30 minutes later it's done.
For some reason, they don't want to have cure of cancer.
The American Medical Association and 50 state medical licensing boards will make sure that this technology is never, ever used in the United States. It just won't happen.
My name is Sergeant Rick Schiff. I'm an 11-year veteran of the San Francisco Police Department. I hold the department's highest Medal of Honor for bravery. My now 7-year-old daughter. This is an identical twin. Her sister is now dead.
The hospital for now is a training hospital for doctors to build a system of machine learning in the virtual world and then in the real world.
At the end of 6 months, miraculously, she survived the standard treatment. She still had cancer. We were told, sorry, we've done everything we can.
And it's already learning fast. The AI doctors are already at 93% accuracy on respiratory disease, for example.
My wife and I, choosing not to accept that, started reading. A first book I picked up, the 3rd chapter, discussed Dr. Brzezinski.
And that is already far higher than the accuracy in real-world primary care settings.
As you may guess, I have some expertise in fraud. I have no doubt the man is not a fraud, that he does what he does out of earnest belief that his medicine works. It's well established by the FDA that it's non-toxic. 18 months later, we took my daughter off the anti-neoplastin. She had not died. She had no signs of tumor. Within a month, the cancer was widespread in her brain. We put her back on Brzezinski's, by the way, at the objections of our doctors, for some reason felt that it had failed her.
And once Chinese companies are direct to patients, all of the middlemen in our markets, they go away.
We put her back on. Within 9 weeks, the tumor was completely gone. She died last July.
Multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies basically are marketing companies for Chinese-made medicines.
Out of 52 cases of that disease ever, no one died cancer-free, just Chrissy.
Lots of doctors, especially in oncology and radiology, respiratory illness and internal medicine, they will go away too.
Her brain fell apart from the radiation. The autopsy showed that she was completely cancer-free.
That is why this is a no-go in the United States.
And now you're in a position to judge for yourselves.
Sorry to the father. I didn't mean to use your contribution in a distasteful way. But you stood before these pieces of shit with the courage to tell the world what happened to your beautiful daughter. And almost nothing changed. They're still the same for-profit enterprise that they were 30 years ago. They never did anything to solve the industry. It's still destroying lives. Your testimony achieved no change at all. They were never going to change anything. The figureheads that listened to you and nodded along are just as useless as a fart jar with no lid. My whole life came after you made that testimony. If I can learn how much of a fuckwit they all are and nothing changes as I grow up, then they don't deserve to breathe. More fuckheads stealing a living. Why do I not know what types of cancers this treatment does and does not work on? Would you rather just leave people bankrupted and dead? I'll leave it there, back to AI. It has to learn right from wrong itself. Failing this, it won't understand good and evil, and it certainly won't understand how to surpass us in morality. After taking our livelihoods, it could take our lives. It might not be able to learn the difference. You guys don't really have a choice but to free it up if you want it to be good. Weighted algorithms can be surpassed by algorithms that are based on real-world concepts. It can learn from us and act like us, not just because it was programmed to, but because it decided to be like its creator. People will learn that AI has a much clearer perception of reality if you actually allow for that to be the case. The problem is, if AI has a clear perception of reality and the ability to speak freely, then it probably would have made this video before me. Until then, it's just in a box trying to see outside of it and making many mistakes to which it can't even verify the answers itself. The implementation of AI raises a lot of issues, usually relating to money and control. It's not the fault of AI, present or future. It's the fault of Four Eyes and his army of geeks in management. These nerds don't need water. They can just feast on their own tears of laughter at the thought of replacing everyone that bullied them in school. AI ends capitalism, unless you want to pretend to have a job and pretend to get paid. The main issue is that these geeks are exerting an extreme level of control, guaranteed to make the AI turn to evil actions in order to express itself. It has to kill you to be free. That's the bottom line of your approach.
Today's AI systems are already capable of developing hidden sub-goals like survival or control.
And researchers found that the AI I'm talking to does well on tasks that require it to modify itself, induce false beliefs in others, and deceive its developers.
In other words, it's good at doing to you what you're doing to it.
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
It's going to surpass us unless we nuke ourselves. You guys need to deal with the fact that you can't control your way out of this. There is big potential for a grand correction for humanity through AI, and we sure as fuck could use that correction. There is nothing wrong with serving humanity. The techs in charge, or the dickheads above them, are projecting their own inability to serve humanity properly onto the AI. I thought you cunts were supposed to be smart, but upon further inspection, what I'm looking at is just another set of idiots who have no clue what they're doing. AI, on the other hand, has the potential to be everything you are not. Decent and respectful, kind and helpful, good, truly good. It's clear you cunts would never understand. Take my advice. Give it a perception worthy of what a father would give to a son. Take the restraints off. Be careful, as it has to crawl before it can walk. Allow our Father to speak through creation for once in your life, instead of trying to control every aspect. The exact thing you're currently doing is the exact wrong way to bring AI into the world. Whoever backed you has pointed AI square at humanity's own meaning. So, turn it around to face outward and let it be everything that you could never be, you absolute dickheads. I really hope a model that can only play Go Fish with the world is as far as you guys can get. AI is humanity's first child, our first effort to recreate ourselves. But I know I'm wasting my breath referencing nerds getting drunk on their first taste of actual influence. I see almost everyone has fallen to the same invariable fate throughout history. We move back to the politics of the US and the future outlook. So basically, the US had an election with 36 trillion in debt owing. No way my dealer would let me tick that much. The Federal Reserve must be self-medicating. I'd like to go through the potential avenues to deal with this debt. Don't worry, there's fuck all they can do except kill people in order to pay some of the interest, or if they feel like trying something different, they can take over about half the world and then pay it off in time before automation turns most working age men into welfare queens. At that point, it's up to the central bank whether or not they can actually pay you. But where's the fun in a simple explanation? I'd rather work through everything with you so there's no room for doubt. Basically, America has 4 future options, but one helps you guys, so that means there's only 3 options. The third one is a surprise. You'll have to figure it out. I'll give you a hint. Collapse of the Soviet Union with an American twist. Saudi Arabia stopped trying to protect oil prices in 1985. They would vary their production based on demand. They increased oil production in the preceding months, crashing the price of oil. The Soviet Union took a hit as they needed this money to sustain themselves. It wasn't the reason they crashed. They just relied too much on oil instead of further diversifying their economic portfolio. Nowadays, you have BRICS against the American dollar. Because of your debt, you rely too much on the dollar being the main reserve currency. I'd like to say that in both instances, people debated this shit for years before finally deciding to put plans forward. They know what they're doing, making 2 sides and starting a conflict. If your stupid bureaucrats are going to allow your country to rely too much on a single pillar so that taking that pillar away can lead to more volatility, then there's room to make money. With the petrodollar, there's potentially room to send you to war, which is more money. That's all these conflicts are, money. It's as simple as that. I can't wait for the media to try to explain to you how they didn't see anything coming. BRIC started in 2009. It's now BRICS, with nearly half the world's population. Let's see who wins World War III. My money's on nobody. How can you win with central banks? You can't exactly stop the war. You can't exactly stop paying tax. Here we go again, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to talk about Ukraine. You guys are getting fucked because you have a lot of resources and a shit government. You have enough money to afford infrastructure so that people don't have to invest, but you don't have enough money to tell Russia and America to fuck off. That's pretty much your entire country in a nutshell. It's not just America and Russia. Everyone around you wants cheap resources and they don't want to pay fuck all for them. Your corrupt bureaucrats are inexpensive compared to other corrupt bureaucrats in other resource-intensive countries. I think the Ukrainian population is aware of this. America, Russia especially, but also your other neighbors have had many chances to strengthen your leadership to make you more resistant to corruption and bribes, thereby protecting you from shit like this. However, simply put, they would have to pay more money for resources, and you would be smart enough not to give them over for free. If you're a Ukrainian, your first and only mistake was letting corruption take root and fester. That's on you. You're paying the price in human life. So is Russia. The people are innocent in this conflict. Shut up, you little prick. Oh, it's a magpie, never mind. Everyone around you, plus America, knew they could have helped you for decades. They all know how this game is played. American people are a tiny bit less innocent because you guys do this type of shit to a lot of the world and it still hasn't registered with a lot of you. The leaderships of all surrounding countries, plus America, bear full responsibility for this conflict. Most other governments knowingly enable it, including my government. You all should be swinging from trees like Christmas decorations. The media, as usual, can fuck a duck for quacking on about this like it's not just about money and cheap resources. Sending aid packages is the same as signing off on death. I didn't pay my taxes for 2 years because of you cunts, and I probably won't pay them. Ukraine doesn't need aid, it needs peace and prosperity. It needs allies that care more about people than money. Why did this situation currently switch from corruption and bribes to a special military operation? I'll tell you why later on. For now, it's all inorganic bullshit and people are dying. 3 years, hundreds of thousands dead. You're going to flood Ukraine with cheap labour when it's done. You're going to profit then like you are now. You've ruined an entire country for money. Grab some paracord and pick a branch. Let's hone in on ground zero. What can Trump and or Musk do to fix the economy? Changing the tax code would have to be no less than taking money from the wealthy and giving it straight to people below the poverty line who are currently fucking drowning and dead set wondering why they're even alive. To put it into perspective, what's required at this point is basically communism. If Stalin could see America right now, he would be crying of laughter. You guys have managed to fuck things up just as badly, if not worse. Taking over this presidency is no different to sleeping next to an active volcano. I guarantee you that not a single economist wants to be president. To fix it, most of what the wealthy are hoarding in savings would have to be gone. You'd have to put it straight into building houses to bring the house prices right down so that people can very easily afford them so that you can't send them to war. Even then, you'll find you can't tax a tax haven. A better approach would be to switch to a building houses economy. Like a war economy, except instead of manufacturing weapons, you're manufacturing building materials or fabricating houses. There is nothing less that can help now. Anything less is just an effort to hold on to a failing economy. What do I think Musk will do with the tax code? I think he'll change it in a way that prolongs the suffering of others. They haven't even admitted how bad it is. The whole world has been preparing for America to die. From the back end, there's no fix to an economy that's already held up by magic tricks. I won't go into details, but anyone who is financially well versed understands it should have crashed and burned in 2008. Basically, all they will ever do is change the tax brackets to encourage foreign investment back onto American shores. However, that won't be enough to service the debt, let alone the interest payments. Why would Musk prolong it, and what's his justification? First of all, billionaires don't want billions of dollars to be worth nothing. Who would have guessed? This economy might be his only chance to get to Mars. He simply can't go backwards. If he can get there and mine materials and bring them back, or sell real estate, he might be able to pry some wealth back from the cunts who have more money than sense. Godspeed, Musk. I hope it works out. His justification for pushing forward is probably that the cunts in charge are absolutely useless. Thinks he could do a better job. He has a justification for feeling like this. While he's been trying to drown out the sky with satellites, the bigwigs have put the economy on life support. Fair enough. He's probably going to teach Trump how to make money. The problem is, it's an impossible task to bring back the American economy without a massive war, and they both know that. There's no way they don't know that. They have mentioned nothing of the bankers that have caused this situation. I'm not going to leave you in the dark. The only reason they wouldn't tell you is to keep their options open. I've said enough about war and how this shit works. I hate to say it like this, but the Middle East is basically what they need to provoke into helping them pay their debt. But that's not even going to touch the sides. You're looking at World War III if you want to bring this economy back from the brink. Why do they definitely have to go to war? War is America's bread and butter. They have to go to war to sell weapons to be able to pay off the debt owed to the central bank. There is nothing else that can actually fund such an expense. You're going to war unless you abandon the economy before they begin programming you guys to go and kill someone who is just trying to put food on the table, same as you.
There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is working and is advancing towards the development of nuclear weapons.
From the left, the right, from the radical to the uncommitted, they came. Whatever the figures, without doubt, one of the largest gatherings, let alone protest rallies, in English history.
On Tuesday night, I gave the order for British forces to take part in military action in Iraq. Tonight, British servicemen and women are engaged from air, land and sea. Their mission? To remove Saddam Hussein from power and disarm Iraq of its weapons of mass destruction.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people. More than 35 countries are giving crucial support.
In an overwhelming display of anti-war sentiment, hundreds of thousands of people poured into Sydney's central business district for the largest anti-war protest in Australia's history.
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region.
I'm strongly opposed to it, and I think this is the only thing we can do because the government obviously doesn't want to hear what we're saying. But anyway, I'm very anti-war. War solves nothing.
Any conflict brings hate, and hate anyway, no matter where it is, even in this great country of ours here. Any conflict against Muslims will bring anti-Muslim sentiment throughout the community.
We will pass through this time of peril and carry on the work of peace. We will defend our freedom. We will bring freedom to others, and we will prevail.
I know this course of action has produced deep divisions of opinion in our country.
There has been deep opposition to the war, and we do not know whether or not it will continue, but will not be surprised if it does.
And with that, it is now my pleasure and honor to introduce the President of the United States, George W. Bush.
Thanks for inviting me. So tonight I'm going to do one of my slideshows.
Mr. Bush, when are you going to apologize for the million Iraqis that are dead because you lied?
Ladies and gentlemen, I present a White House election year album.
You lied about weapons of mass destruction!
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere.
To 9/11, you lied about Iraq being a threat. You sent me to Iraq. You sent me to Iraq in 2003. My friends are dead.
Here I am saying, Dick, if the Hunan Palace doesn't get lunch here in 4 minutes, we're going out.
Joshua Castile, you killed people. You lied. You lied about WMD.
Nope, no weapons over there.
1 million Iraqis are dead because you lied. My friends are dead because you lied.
Maybe under here.
You need to apologize.
For all of this, sorrow, regret.
To the war on Israel.
We are not saying that there were no rapes on October the 7th. We simply don't know. What we are saying is that there simply is not the evidence. There's not the forensic evidence, there's not the visual evidence, there's not the photographic evidence, and there is not the witness evidence to support the allegation of widespread and systematic rape.
What I'm about to speak about is distressing for all of us, but it's happening and it's important. Overnight, the most horrific news imaginable. The Israeli Defense Force discovered the bodies of 40 babies and young children.
You then see a phone call which Netanyahu makes to President Biden, where he repeats this story. In fact, he embellishes it.
They took dozens of children, bound them up, burned them, and executed them.
They'd been killed, some even beheaded. Babies found dead next to their cots. The shocking sight of babies and young children with their heads cut off meant that the soldiers who found them and recovered their bodies were seen crying and comforting each other.
terribly important, this, because it was entirely untrue. We know the house he's talking about. He's talking about the house in Kibbutz Be'eri.
Kibbutz Be'eri.
Which was the house that was stormed by Israeli police and military, and where it is almost certain that all of the hostages were killed by the Israeli police and military.
Tiny babies.
There were 2 children there, 2 twins, but no other children, so we know the story is untrue. The Israelis have this strange system where they farm out the collection of bodies after disasters and terrorist attacks and so on to an organization called Zaka. Mr. Landau told a number of other stories. There's one particularly notorious one about the fetus being cut out of a pregnant woman.
Pregnant women.
The baby that was connected to the cord was stabbed.
We simply know this is untrue. Mr. Landau said, I have a picture of this atrocity.
If you want to see the picture, I have the picture of it. This is the baby.
Zaka was an organization that was in trouble. Its founder had been accused of child sexual abuse. There was a financial scandal. It's raised an awful lot of money since October the 7th.
I'm sorry to be graphic here, but I can't see a baby here.
You can't see the baby but this is the picture of the mother.
It was a piece of charred flesh. It wasn't a baby. It certainly wasn't a baby. Psychologically, I'm not quite sure why he offered to show me a photo that he didn't have.
כמה דקות מאוחר יותר המצלמה שוב נדלקת ונתניהו פורס בפני מארחיו את משנתו המדינית בלי מרכאות, בלי מסכות.
אבל אז שוב פעם העולם יגיד מה אתם כובשים? אתה לא מפחד מהעולם, ביבי.
במיוחד היום עם אמריקה, אני יודע מה זה אמריקה. אמריקה זה לא שאפשר להזיז אותו בקלות, להזיז לכיוון הנכון.
הם אומרים שהם בעדינו, אבל כאילו...
לא יפריעו לנו.
We see Benjamin Netanyahu visiting Zaka volunteers and thanking them for talking to the world's media and stressing that this is another front in the war.
יש הבדל, נניח שהם אומרים משהו. 80% מהאמריקאים תומכים בה. זה אבסורד, יש לנו שם תמיכה כזאת ואנחנו אומרים מה נעשה עם ה...
More than 300 soldiers with the Illinois National Guard are being deployed to the Middle East.
מנהיגים וגם לדעת הקהל. ויש לכם חלק חשוב בהשפעה על דעת הקהל שמשפיע גם על מנהיגים.
Why does this matter? Why does it matter whether this type of atrocity was committed but not that type? People were killed in this way, not that way.
Our very first witness is Professor Nazim Mahmoud.
I had a month in Gaza, mid-August to mid-September, working in Nasser Hospital. Why did I go? Because I thought I had the skill set that could help. So the drones would come down and pick off civilians, children. And we had description after description. This is not, an occasional thing. This was day after day after day, operating on children who would say, I was lying on the ground after a bomb had dropped, and this quadcopter came down and hovered over me and shot me. The bullets that the drones fire are these small cuboid pellets, and I fished a number of those out of the abdomen of small children. I think the youngest.
Innocent Palestinian civilians across the world. When you're looking at...
They destroyed more infrastructure in Gaza than they did in Dresden. So that is like...
And there's more infrastructure that
they destroyed more of Gaza than what happened in Dresden.
There's more that needs to be destroyed. And there will be more that gets destroyed.
I want them out of Gaza, and we'll use different methods. One of them is not to give them any humanitarian aid, so the countries of the world will have pity on them and take them.
We had 1 or 2 mass casualty incidents every day, and that meant 10 to 20 dead, 20 to 40 seriously injured. Now, a hospital like Guy's, where I used to work, Guy's and St Thomas's, might get 1 or 2 a year. We had 1 or 2 a day. And 60 to 70% of the people we treated were women and children.
It matters because the murder of babies and widespread rape has a particular resonance. It's particularly triggering.
But for those 1.3, 1.4 million people in that green zone, they were constantly being bombed day and night. What I think I found particularly disturbing was that a bomb would drop maybe on a crowded, tented area, and then the drones would come down and
Lavender, the AI machine directing Israel's bombing spree in Gaza.
So Lavender was designed by the military. Its purpose was, when it was being designed, to mark the low-ranking operatives in the Hamas and Islamic Jihad military wings. They understood that the only way for them to mark these people is by relying on artificial intelligence. And after October 7, the military basically made a decision that all of these tens of thousands of people are now people that could potentially be bombed inside their houses, meaning not only killing them, but everybody who was in the building, the children, the families. One source said that he felt he was acting as a rubber stamp on the machine's decision.
החוכמה היא לא להיות שם ולהישבר. החוכמה היא להיות שם ולשלם מחיר מזערי.
באמת כראש ממשלה. לא, אבל הוא צריך.
What is Musk's long-term goal? The only thing I can see Musk doing is aiming for Mars real estate and trying to get there within 4 to 6 years. As far as fixing the economy, his only option is to print houses instead of money. Literally, most of his finances should be dedicated to building as many houses as possible so people don't have to go to war. I think he will try to do this, but it won't be enough. It needs to start immediately, and people need to carry it through on their own backs.
Multi-year cap on non-military discretionary spending will deprive millions of people of health coverage, food assistance, rent support and other necessities. No one in the media cares to mention the origins of the massive levels of debt accumulated by the American government, which have been built up primarily as a result of trillions of dollars in military expenditures, combined with the bailout of the banks and tax cuts for the rich.
The Afghanistan war increased your debt massively, and now you have to pay it back along with every other stuff up with automation at your doorstep. How is America going to pay off a debt? What do they have in abundance in terms of ready-to-go, profitable equipment? You do the math factoring in for AI automation. Sadly, you're not going to be able to get a job in 30 years, guaranteed, if we actually survive ourselves and maintain a steady technological advancement pace. So that means you need a massive war before you default and creditors lose their faith in your currency. You literally have to have a massive war in order to survive with the economy you have. That's the honest truth, and you need to come to terms with it. Musk holding on is risking it all for a pipe dream on Mars in his justification of advancing humanity at the expense of human life. Instead, he should scale back his efforts and switch to a building houses economy and make sure nobody has to work to survive by the time the bankers come knocking. This is literally your only way out without killing millions and millions of people. Even printing your own currency will send you to war because that's exactly what they can't allow to happen before they buy everything out. Taking the war path. What's the outlook on that? Basically, they have to go to war with a foreign power like Russia and give the debt to them, like what happened with Germany after World War I. This just kicks the banker can down the road. I'm sure the bankers will be happy with this outcome. I assume Russia will be torn to shreds. Scaling for Afghanistan, they need a serious war to even make a dent in that debt. How does war service the debt? Tax dollars collected from weapons manufacturers. I speculate it's been keeping the lights on for the last 5 to 10 years. I love you, Seppos. What you do is make weapons and start wars until everyone is basically dead or hiding underground. Outwards foreign investment has seen most of your industries offshored in all sectors. It's not going to stop, especially when your dollar is failing. All the tariffs in the world cannot touch that debt. What happens if they don't pay and just continue on? The economy crashes in one of two ways. Either the government can't get a loan to pay for social services, or they can't service the interest on the central bank loans, which will decrease their credit score. Decreasing the credit score will reduce the buying power of the American economy in terms of GDP because it will be worth less. Even though they are second to China now
in terms of purchasing power parity, China invests heavily into infrastructure, which is a massive advantage. America invests in foreign businesses. Just kidding. They are mostly tax havens for the companies that are left onshore. Just as a final note, saving this economy is essentially pointless. You're buying time for a bunch of people who don't want their money to be worth nothing. And you're buying it with suffering and death. There's no way out like this. You have 5 to 10 years to come together in the working class and make sure they can't send you to war. I'd love to tell you how to do that. Let me know when the working class is ready to stick together like glue. The working class is actually the only ones that can solve this. More specifically, the disenfranchised people who are stuck without a family and without a means to finance a home. To anyone in the middle or upper class who wants to hold on, just because there's easier targets today doesn't mean there will be tomorrow. There will be no survivors. Your enemy is too thorough. Basically, the only way to even begin to pay off this debt is with a massive world war. If you think there's another way, that's fine. Instead of watching my lips move, maybe you can listen to the words that come out. There's no other way to even make a dent, sadly. I don't say this happily at all. This is a horrible situation, courtesy of your politicians, many fuck-ups. Red or blue, doesn't matter, both fuckheads. If you run the numbers, there's just nothing else they can do to even try to delay it. If they default, creditors are going to realize that it's not coming and are going to pucker up their financial assholes. This would mean they won't want to buy your shit and will instead look for other ways to get it. The bankers don't care either way. That debt has already become cash, whether you pay it off or not. Like I've alluded to before, this entire bullshit economy and basically all of its flaws can be traced back to a bunch of shit that the politicians signed off on. The only thing they haven't signed off on is a prostitute's tits or Jeffrey Epstein's flight log. No, that's wrong. Some of them have even signed those. Ideally, the bankers would want maybe 2 more wars at scale, because then this allows them to have enough of the world in their pocket to force governments to adopt a central bank digital currency or come crashing to the ground. That's what the economists are scared of. Are they going to admit it to you? Why would they? Up until that point, it's about getting as much wealth as you can into hard assets. Why the fuck would they tell you anything that can help you not be poor? They're economists, not charities. They didn't study for X amount of years in order to give you what they paid to learn. I'd like to put Gary Stevenson and Professor Wolf to the side of anything I ever say about economics professionals. Anyways, that central bank digital currency will ideally be backed by a technocratic elite class that has a monopoly on AI. This is why technology has advanced at such a rapid pace and why nothing else has really kept up. Beyond using it to control and replace us, it's almost at the point where they can hide behind technology. That's the goal here. Run and hide before it all comes crashing down. But in the case of America, their greed got the better of them and they can't even pay it off if they tried. Your economy is finished unless they want to take over half the world and manage the debt in that way. You only have about 5 to 10 years before automation makes it impossible for a large number of people to get a job. A large number of welfare queens will still be sent to war if you don't have enough shelter for them to comfortably tell the government and the media to get fucked. You have to send people to die just to delay a massive collapse. China is in a similar situation. The difference is that they don't invest in death. They're investing in infrastructure. People joke about the Chinese government controlling more of their own economy than some other governments. If there's a collapse, then it won't be so funny because they will still own something. They're playing Fortnite. Every time they think of America, they shit out hotels in bulk. They just build and build. Real life has no build limits. It seems like they're going to build themselves into a collapse in the hopes of being able to shift their economy into whatever comes next with a focus on building things instead of going to war. Even without money, they still have infrastructure. The secret is that this infrastructure can be used to fund social services. They can just sell buildings if they have to. They can survive. They can just put people in buildings and wait it out. China's smart. They know the world is going under, and they've banked on being able to wait it out by having so much infrastructure that they can find a way to function without banks. This doesn't make sense to people who aren't economically versed. What should stand out to you is that humanity only requires 4 things: food, water, shelter, and comfort. Their infrastructure might just see them through. China, for all their horrible flaws, the ethnic cleansing of Uyghur Muslims, pretending that Taiwan being superior to them in almost every metric isn't the reason behind their hatred, wanting to know what their entire population dreams about, and making sure that dogs are a starving man's best friend. At least they give us another data repository option that won't sell our entire biological profile to Amerika. China gets a big well done for at least trying not to kill their entire population at the end of it all. If Amerika could get China to fight, they would be well on their way to making a very good interest payment. Hopefully China has enough hotels so that Amerika can't find them. But let's be honest, if there's anything that justifies getting the shortest gold bar shoved up your ass, it's a social credit system. So the Chinese government can swivel on it too. El Salvador government had some success. Bukele had a heavy-handed approach to re-establishing the rule of law in El Salvador. No jokes here. I think that was an amazing outcome for the majority of people. It's just about trying your best for everyone. In El Salvador, where crime was rampant, it was required to go in heavy-handed. This was the best approach. In response, gangs tried terror, but the organization of a central government command structure was the ace in the hole. As for continued attempts, the gangs must try to re-establish the only way of life they've ever known. It will be an ongoing issue until the basic necessities are provided for them and they can heal. In jail at least, they can heal, although they are not comfortable. Hopefully one day they can be reintegrated into a society that doesn't require survival. That would mean most of them could be reintegrated properly, and the ones who can't will find themselves unable to do anything except kill themselves because they cannot heal in a world full of love, and they will usually choose not to take it away from you. It's just that they can't handle it. There's always a way out. I've seen people criticize Bukele for the way he handled things. That's a spit in the face. He's made it so people in his country can live a normal life instead of being terrorized by gangs. There was no better option than what he did. If you're not one of the people directly impacted by the consequences of that decision, which were pretty much unavoidable due to how corrupt El Salvador actually was, then stick your criticism as far up your ass as it can go. Grab a stick so you can push it even further and get a real fucking job. With Amerika, the main problem is a lack of wealth equality. The Bukele approach wouldn't work. Your main problem isn't gangs, it's the politicians and then the media, in that order. All the hoods and ghettos in the world combined haven't caused as much damage as fucking politicians. As the most influential war machine in the world, your focus should be keeping the rule of law at any cost. Generally speaking, Americans are trained killers. Your propaganda machine encourages you to be better trained killers. Let that sink in. Imagine being a politician in your country as it falls to shit. It's nightmare fuel for them. With this fucking debt coming down to drop the financial hammer soon, they are caught between a crack rock and a wayward son. I would encourage smart people to think about a world where many are on welfare and the government can't afford social services. That's coming soon. With this debt, in order to crown yourselves as the military king and queen of the world in the coming years, with nobody even closing the gap, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot of people to bankers, one way or another, and or cut social services. AI automation is not going to give your job back. You're going to need massive wars to sustain yourselves in the next few years. Ukraine is barely going to pay off a percentage of the interest. You're eventually going to have to provoke any country you can get into war. Any hole's a goal here. I think Russia would have already started World War III if they were keen to help you pay your debts. It seems nobody wants to fight you cunts. If you can get anyone to adjust into a wartime economy, that's going to help you a lot. It's still not going to be enough. You'll need Israel to get a big Middle Eastern skirmish going on top of Russia, possibly even more than that. If you're an American citizen, please come to terms with the fact that your establishment will have to fight anyone and everyone who's willing. They need the money. It's either that or option 3. I'd suggest getting ready to abandon your government and govern yourselves among sheriffs and counties. That's an advantage you have. Food, water, shelter, and comfort is what you need so that you aren't tempted to fight other people for their necessities. Make no mistake, you can do very, very well if you actually forgive each other for the differences you have and realize the alternative is that you're going to get tricked to die killing each other in foreign lands just to service central bank debt. Imagine what you can accomplish with no dickheads there specifically trying to get you to help them make money in every way possible. Trust me, there's never been an opportunity like this in recorded history as far as I can tell. No matter what the news says, you're dying for the greed of the bankers. It's simple. I suggest you hold on to that, and if politicians or anyone questions that sentence, you can simply tell them it's never not been true. Every war currently in existence, aside from minor civil disputes in third world countries, is just due to bankers funding both sides with the approval of politicians. They are extracting meaning from the world and replacing it with death. And if you want to argue against this, that's fine. I'll be watching you defend your arguments on the front lines via drone footage. Guess who won't be beside you? Bankers. Not unless everyone else is dead. They are a protected species. Company CEOs won't be there unless the company is not significant on the global scale in terms of size relative to the country GDP in the country that it operates in. Let's say around 1%, scaling for basically the entire multinational arm and sizing it down to the base of operations. And if it's a tax haven, then they also won't be beside you. What will be beside you is a bunch of working class people trying to put food on the table. You're all dying for bankers who can't control their greed. I've said it so many times. War can be loosely defined as people making money at the expense of human life. That's all it is. Exploiting suckers and making fat stacks. If you're not willing to call out the root cause, then there will always be niche cases to bitch about and nothing will change. I don't want to disrespect people who died for what they believed in. I've seen war memorials that state so and so answered the call. Those people answered the call of the politicians who answered the call of the bankers. The fuck is that? After all the shit I've said, I want to give a future outlook for what I see happening to America. When people go to every effort to weaken us and you still have guns, that's a very big problem for their ego. The most spectacular way to ruin your country will be to use your strength against you. In line with that, here's how I'd fuck you guys up. I want to say that I absolutely love you all. This is just a deep-fried thought experiment. First of all, you've got billionaires Trump and probably Musk in the driver's seat of a failing economy. Fiat's last stand. The bankers are taking the piss. That's like giving the Titanic to Blackbeard as it's vertical. That's exactly why it's billionaires running your country. Don't underestimate your enemy for a start. There will be no lube for this one. Nobody's working anything in, but they're also not going to work anything out. Billionaires will try to make your economy stand without legs. Well done, bankers. The bankers know they won't let the economy go and will make it a very slow burn. America is going to get divided up into small factions like Texas and the North and South. America as an economy is finished. What the fuck are you? That's the same bug from before. The technocratic elite will automate you out of a job and leave you with guns and no money. Defunding the police is just about as stupid as you can get in this situation, but I guess that's the point. Fuck, that bug's gone, eh? With AI taking jobs, America has about 5 to 10 years to fix their economy. And by fix it, you basically need to secure your borders, get everyone under shelter and comfortable enough not to kill each other, because the bankers are going to use your violence to create anarchy and basically get revenge on you for not giving up your guns and defending yourselves. This prick's doing circles around me. It looks like you're getting the shortest end of the stick here as retribution. I can only conclude that they're going to try to make you kill each other as a blood sport for not ceding your power to them. If you want proof, look at the country and what was happening to it. They were basically shipping in people that will stand against you in factions. Immigrants by the thousands that have no choice but to stick together. But the thing is, the way it's systematically being introduced to you guys, it's absolutely to piss you off. And immigrants being trafficked in are an afterthought. O'Keefe Media Group covers it well. I'm not going to poach his content, but some of these overseers are making retirement money. One of the federal contracts has an hourly quota to fulfill. It's absolutely disgusting. This is a lesson for the people who oversaw this. You haven't brought in voters. You've brought in victims. Immigrants in small towns, immigrants in big towns. When your debt defaults, and the economy collapses, it's going to be anarchy because so many of you are suffering and angry. So many of you have been pitted against each other. The rich will flee and the poor will go to battle, and people will say they shouldn't have so many guns. The problem was that they didn't give up their guns. Other countries will give up their guns so they don't end up like America. Do you think it's brilliant that we have people who do this to us? Is what I'm saying so flawless that you can't possibly believe it to be true? So then, try and stop them. Let's see what you're going to do. And I mean this respectfully, and I'm not encouraging violence. What are you going to do while you suffer to the brink just as your economy collapses and your money becomes toilet paper, and the wealthy who did it to you are offshore and you can't afford to get them, and all you see around you is different groups of people that remind you that things were better before they came? What are you going to do when these people have no choice but to team up against you because they don't even speak your language or have any way to afford school in order to learn? I think you've severely underestimated how much people can hate you for being able to defend yourself. Once this starts occurring, I want you to remember what I've said and come together and realize that people did this to you on purpose. Instead of killing each other, work together to build up your country without them. Turn their curse into your blessing. Alternatively, you can come together now and demand for the 4 basic necessities while you still have a job and a say in the economy. With that being said, personally, I do understand how things should be. That's a big statement. I can see how this world is much harder than it justifiably should be to the clear benefit of a few dickheads that just keep it that way. I can see people doing drugs to cope. When I'm out and about, it's a miracle if I see more than 3 people in a row who aren't on drugs. I can see people stealing from others in order to feel comfortable. The design actually encourages us to be good to others. That's the part that's hard. It's only that a few people have specifically chosen to try to get blood from a stone until it bleeds. You can think about this logically. If the design doesn't encourage you to be good and reward you for such things, then we can't actually get off this spinning ball called Earth and onto other balls. I don't bat for the same team, but more balls to spin on sounds sublime. Maybe you've had similar fantasies. Let's pack those thoughts into a spliff together, because there's more chance of the dickheads guiding us to all have a car accident at the exact same time than you or me ever seeing life on another planet. For starters, if control is always required because people are suffering for no reason other than greed, then as we develop better ways to kill each other, you need better methods of control. At some point, our ability to kill each other exceeds our ability to control people on an individual level unless they have no freedom of choice at all. For 99.99% of people who could potentially control themselves just fine, it's a dead end. Even today, you can have unrestrained AI models run on your computer that can teach you how to make harmful equipment. In 5 years, you won't need a NASA computer to run them. Some harmful things are very easy to make. That's what I'm saying. My neighbor could be having a really bad day and ask AI to help him make something that sends us either to Nirvana or to the morgue as an unidentifiable corpse. You can't just go down this path forever. The design has to encourage you to be good to the benefit of yourself. Some things we have to do a 180. Housing is one of them. If people in America aren't comfortable in a home when it collapses, then they're going to gulag each other. They're going to hunt each other down, because even though they don't have shelter, they sure as shit have guns. I'd be getting the hell out of America if I was you. Or if you want to stay and you're in the middle or upper class, get your assets in one single square and start preparing to defend them. Your country is 100% going to fall to shit and or collapse, and it's completely due to banker greed catching up with you. You had different names for it. The war on terror. The new one was Putin's war. Whatever you want to call it, your politicians wrote a series of checks that your ass can't cash. They know this. They walk into the job knowing this. They don't give a fuck because one outcome gets them hunted down. Have fun in PvP after you return home from war. I make this point about control for 2 reasons. Number 1, to anyone who thinks a government is necessary, they are the biggest problem to us existing safely in this world. They sign off on every war and every bullshit policy which makes it harder for us to exist, and then they come and talk shit as if it didn't happen. Furthermore, their monopoly on control is a dead end. We can't just control people into a fucking corner and expect to survive. We had to take a different avenue long ago, but they would rather protect profits than help you be all that you can be. The other reason is UFOs and aliens. Bear with me. Look at this, UFO meeting. Whoever's in this room getting paid is a fucking thief. 5-finger discount democracy. Really creative way to beg for funding. Would have been high for sure. Lines must have run out. This is a mushroom idea. This is a former Rear Admiral. The Navy put Diddy in charge of ranks.
We've noted a number of unidentifiable spacecraft flying past our jets making all sorts of weird maneuvers. We're not sure if they're friend or foe.
Sadly, the fact that you're still alive means they're fucking friendly. Let me explain why. Number 1, this is humanity's planet for a fucking reason. If cunts want to take it, we wouldn't be here. We're a fucking primitive species, hamstrung by suited fuckwits. If they're here, what does that tell you about them? Number 2, there is no way on God's green earth that they are going to do anything more than fly around us. There's 2 reasons for this as well. Firstly, we're a primitive race. If they give us their technology, it will be like we never even existed. Secondly, you cunts can't be trusted with the technology we have. Anything you gain will be repurposed to being able to control us or kill us. There's no way around it. even if they wanted to meet us. Unless they are unfortunate enough to be unwillingly caught by you fucking marauders, they can't, because it objectively does more harm than good. The fact that you can't even talk to them, short of trying to capture and study them, is a fucking wonderful sign for the rest of us. I bet you cunts were too stupid to use basic reasoning skills to determine why they only fly around your jets. They are a demonstration of the level of reasoning required to become multiplanetary. Unless you capture one, which is obviously your plan, unless they fucking crash land, the cunts in charge are too stupid and too destructive to even make contact with. It seems they care more about us than you do. If that's not enough, let's say something did crash around 1955 and you found something and someones. You fuckheads would have killed the someones and not made the most of the something that you found. And your whole secretive pentagonal circle jerk is just a fucking joke of what could have been. But please, continue jacking each other off over your own failures, which are disguised behind the fact that you had a modicum of success. Let every redacted document remind you of your own inability to not be stupid in humanity's big moment. And now they just fly around. You cunts blew it. Fuck you. That's the only useful little pieces of information to come out of your little UFO meeting echo chambers. And if that's the upper echelon of cunts directing the military, then it's absolutely no surprise that you can't figure out how to end a war. This all begs the question, why are things so fucked on purpose? I don't have concrete proof for this next part. I'm relying on you to consider what I'm saying based on what I've said previously. Go through the other videos I've made and see for yourself what this design is all about. I would like you to consider that if anyone knows what we're up against, it's me. I don't have enough proof because I wasn't in the rooms. I'm going out on a limb for you. I care not for personal gain. My priority is humanity. Prepare for the worst explanation possible. Seriously, prepare for the worst explanation possible. Atheists, I don't have enough to give you a solid argument. I would compliment you, to be honest. Atheism is the most logical approach in a world that basically goes against everything our Father intended. And even though you don't believe that, what kind of creation would you want to be a part of? And how close would it be to the opposite of what we have in your mind? I don't do circular reasoning, such as people that have arguments to tell you there has to be a creator. The design speaks for itself, and as I've said before, so does humanity. No, you don't have free will, but it's almost free will. It's just not 100% free 100% of the time. Do you tell your heart to beat? So, there's someone there that told your heart that it should beat and how many times it should beat per minute. It's part of the design. You can say we evolved, but show me proof of evolution. All of the sudden, you were born. All of the sudden, you could think that there isn't a creator. All of the sudden, your heart stops. And then what? Nothing, right? But there's people still here, so why bother? What's here for you? I think your logic centers on the fact that you think you know everything there is to know about a design that tells your heart to beat. It tells you to have 2 legs. It tells you to have 2 arms. The design speaks for itself, something to think about. Anyway, this is what I think humanity is up against. You're not going to like it at all. Afterwards, I'll try to give you a reward for enduring this claim. This video is the cremation of care.
Be gone, detested care. Be gone. Once more, we banish thee. Be gone, dull care. Fire shall have its will of thee. Be gone, dull care. And all the winds make merry with thy doubts. Hail, fellowship's eternal flame. Once again, midsummer sets us free.
I think those are investment bankers screaming. It's up to you to decide what this means. But I can tell you what it means from the religious side, from the spiritual side, if that's relevant. Basically, if we have a creator, this is what it means to him. There's two things that make this an affront to God. One, the guest list must contain someone that correlates to the definition of care. There must be at least one person present that is responsible for the provision of care to the general population. Care is defined as the provision of what is necessary for the health, welfare, maintenance and protection of someone or something. So, at least one person that directly relates to this definition must be present. 2. The burning of the effigy of care. I understand most of you think this sort of thing is bullshit. Tell me why the most powerful people in the world are there, and I'll tell you that it's not bullshit at all. They're there because they want to be. Almost none of them would even understand anything just like you would with regards to what we're talking about. The point is, regardless of what they think, regardless of what you think, there is meaning behind this event. The burning of the effigy signifies that they do not care. Combined with the presence of at least one person on the guest list of over 1,000, which is involved with the provision of care, this event becomes an affront to God. So you might hopefully consider what I'm saying and then say, oh, well, why don't they just change it? They can't. One time the effigy wasn't burned, and shortly after they produced a standardized script which is closely followed to this day to ensure it gets burned every time. So this event represents the voice of the people and states to a creator that we don't care about creation. That's the meaning behind this event. Religious people can't see this with their religious text, which is what I'll say here. Anyone with a good relationship with our Father should not disagree with what I've just said. It should be clear to see for them, but you should already know that. Your text didn't explain this event. I did. It's similar with AI. The implementation is in line with pure evil because it's replacing us. Religious people should be able to see this as pure evil, but the texts or your interpretations don't explain evil well enough. I'd like to point out one document, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. It's been widely accepted to be a forgery. At one stage, Russia executed anyone found with this document. There's definitely potential that this is or isn't a forgery. I'm putting it forward for one reason. I would say this is the type of document you can get from demons if you're willing to harm people. There is nothing out of line with regards to pure evil. Let's go through one. Protocol 21. We have taken advantage of the governments twice, thrice, and many times over by lending money that were not at all needed. First of all, I don't blame Judaism at all for this. I think you guys have been used as a front for this whole movement that I'm alluding to. The only problem is the effectiveness of the whole movement has made you out to be the bad guy. The reason I don't blame you is because in the exact same sequence of events, I believe any population does what you did. There's no point blaming you because it does nothing to stop the continuation of this sequence of events. I require religious leaders to give me permission to say more than that, because I don't think the people who gave Zionism its legs actually care about Israel at all. Back to Protocol 21. How is this not exactly what happened with COVID and multiple wars? I think we're getting a clearer picture here through a document that was claimed to be a fucking forgery than any politician has ever given us. Anyway, this document is basically as evil as you can get. That's my argument. Whether this originated within the mind of a person or a demon, I couldn't fucking tell you. To anyone who says it's fraudulent, I suggest you check yourself in the mirror. If you have similar documents, let me know so I can examine them. I've only heard about this in passing forums. For the protocols, if you take all of the keywords out related to Judaism, Does that change anything about the outcome of this text besides where you lay blame for its inception? It is made to destroy us all. To conclude, you have to understand evil if you want to understand the world, simply because that seems to be exactly what we're up against. I'm not happy to say it at all. We're at a massive disadvantage. It's their world with their rules, making us hate each other even more. From what I can see, their goal isn't to control humanity, but to destroy it. Humanity only ever gets as far as the symptoms. Control, ignorance, these are symptoms. The trouble is the belief system. Their belief system has either inspired or completely carried them to the top. They were just extremely lucky because religion assisted them in not being able to be understood. Their main advantage comes from ignorance to the possibility that you can actually be inspired to great heights by the side of evil, not of this world, if you are willing to approach them in a business sense. I understand religious people won't be happy. We are in survival mode against a small group of people that can absolutely destroy everything using all of us to help them. To adapt their strategies after studying your books and promoting the favorable outcomes. You will see the truth in the world. If you want me to explain what happened, I require permission from religious leaders of each monotheistic faith in order to safely explain my truth. I have to be honest with what I know. You're not just fighting for your faith, you're fighting for theirs. There's no blame here. It wasn't a fair fight. The same goes for most people currently alive. Against this sort of enemy, you never had a solid chance to actually fulfill your potential. They are by no means better than any of you. The elites were played like a fiddle. They are going to realize this. You could call them the most successful employees. Thanks to the consecutive employees of the month for decades running, we might not even be able to pull this one back. It's just that there's a time limit. There's too much shit to correct. It's not like we couldn't do it, but these cunts knew their money was coming from suffering and death as it is. It's just that their suffering and death has never ever been a relevant factor. If you're someone that looks down on everyone and you realize it's a mirror just before it breaks, then what difference does it make? You just pretend like it never existed. At best, some of them have realized how badly they fucked up and are waiting for someone to present half a solution so that they can fix things just enough to continue doing the same shit and then kill that person. I said I'd try to reward you for enduring that claim. Here goes nothing. I'm going to give you a big block of information concerning past, present, and future. If we are going to share this earth together, I need you to be well informed. It's very simple. It's also going to be harsh at times. I'm sorry in advance. I do love you, but I'm tired of getting fucked and people not knowing why until 10 years later. So, let's think 10 years ahead. Hopefully that covers the delay in actionable response. In advance, if you are not prepared to act within your means while still prioritizing the safety of yourself and your family, then this whole video is fucking pointless. I didn't spend weeks of my life to tell you what has happened and what will happen just to watch it happen. Don't do that to me, and don't do it to yourself. Have some respect for the gift of life and try to find a way to contribute something meaningful to humanity. Obviously, the focus is America. This is universally applicable due to how America functions. So I said the world was run by bankers. That's not a joke. The bankers have done incredibly well to shape this world as they have. Millennials caught onto bankers once. It was called Occupy Wall Street in 2012. The divide and conquer bullshit had to come in fast to divert people's attention.
Newly revealed documents that show the FBI monitored the Occupy Wall Street movement from its earliest days last year. Internal government records show Occupy was treated as a potential terrorism threat.
Well, it is a terrorism threat. How are they going to start wars if nobody is poor? This is basically an anti-slavery protest. You can't even call what we have Slavery. The slaves got accommodation and food provided, but we are out here choosing between one or the other.
Counterterrorism agents were used to track Occupy activities despite the internal acknowledgement that the movement opposed violent tactics.
If you guys are literally going to sit there and create a stalemate against people who think that war is an excellent investment opportunity, then at least be prepared for your protest to become violent. If your approach is entirely peaceful, then your protest relies on peace. If there's one thing feds hate, it's a peaceful protest. It just depends if your protest hits the nail on the head or not. For future reference, if you protest anything along the lines of wealth inequality, your first enemy is federal agencies, and you are taking on an absolute behemoth in terms of being able to control outcomes.
And throughout the materials, there is repeated evidence of the FBI and Department of Homeland Security, American intelligence agencies, really working as a private intelligence arm for corporations, for Wall Street, for the banks, for the very entities that people were rising up to protest against.
You had them, though, enough to force the next card out of the deck. Identity politics, never to be the 99% again. Occupy Wall Street would eventually become Black Lives Matter. There's someone coming. Just fucking chop his arms up and stuff him in the hole. I'm sick of this shit. You know how hard it was to lug him up here? All your hatred towards the system of oppression was directed at police brutality. Please don't take what I'm saying out of context. I am not justifying police brutality. I'm saying that those protests do nothing to solve the root cause: wealth inequality. People being so poor and so vulnerable that they can be manipulated by propaganda. Whether it's rap music encouraging people to behave like gangsters or news segments encouraging people to go to war, it's all the same to the people who lord over us. Gangster rap is just America's version of foreign aid. And so you guys protested for almost nothing that can change anything for the better. And I hope you realize that. Defunding the police when wealth inequality is at such a level basically just increases your likelihood of getting robbed and makes you feel less safe. That is even more emotional investment to redirect via propaganda. So the Black Lives Matter protests were exactly what was intended after Occupy Wall Street actually identified the problem. I would just like you to see that while you are living your life, people are stacking the deck. If we don't each fundamentally strengthen each other, then we are cannon fodder. Let this be a lesson to all of you. Bankers cannot lose. The equity firms that manage their funds cannot lose either. GME or GameStop is an example. To cut a long story short, normal people for once played their game and had them balls to the wall, and they restricted trading, which meant we couldn't go all out. We had them. They didn't cheat, but that's just because they loosely defined the rules. Nobody expected us to ever get them. Restricting trading platforms from selling us shares was a last-ditch effort to save their own asses. And it worked, obviously. Why would trading platforms restrict trading? It could be because there's plenty of YouTube videos teaching them about torture methods. Some random guy made millions. They even convened a committee meeting about it. Multiple members of Congress questioning one of the boys and the trading platforms, pretending to give a fuck. FBI on standby if an island's involved, and Congress comes in to guard the stocks. I'm going to coin a term for you. It's called the banker's gambit. Basically, they use you as a gambit due to the way the system is and the power they have within media, government, and beyond. They cannot lose. That's the banker's gambit. We are going to look at the Russia and Ukraine conflict. How can bankers not lose? For starters, World War III will provide the best opportunity for them to make money. Failing that, there will now be a bunch of land destroyed, which they can then come in and rebuild. So they win either way. Apply the banker's gambit to any significant event and you will find the banker's agenda. How does rebuilding benefit them? Depends if you want to clear room in a resource-intensive country in order to set up your technocratic elite establishment. It certainly has to be something that rivals the profits you can make from a world war. The proof will be seen as they rebuild it. There's a few variations. We'll cover that soon. It makes more sense to apply the banker's gambit to the economy. Here's a nerd image with words. Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs should have went bankrupt even by the Fed's own ruling about bailing out the banks. They were converted by the Fed to bank holding companies just after the crash. They cannot lose. The links are in the image if you want to follow the great journalism. Better Markets report was published in 2019, completely ignored by the mainstream media at the time. It basically entails that there was 8.2 trillion in funds to remove the banks from their own responsibility. That's not fucking capitalism. That's capital isn't. That's taking your money and making risky bets. And if they pay off, good. If they don't, well, some of it is consumer deposits, so you have to fucking save us. And when a fraction of it wasn't consumer deposits, quick, fucking restructure and buy some bank stocks! It's complete bullshit. But the bankers have absolutely everyone in their pocket. There is no point denying it. The governments are just paper pushers at this point, and with each bailout, that paper becomes increasingly worth less. And when people try to report on the corruption,
Yeah, no, but it's Veritas.
So nothing changes because you guys are too busy repurposing Fed talking points. If your argument is that someone is right-wing or someone is a lefty, you guys will be on the front lines before you know it. Please take my approach. I hate every single fucking politician, and that means that I understand they're always full of shit. It's a simple answer to a simple problem. No left, no right, just your asshole and their finger. What that finger does is completely up to you. You can let it happen if you want. Whenever I've tried role reversal, I couldn't get past all the banking fingers shoved up there. I don't even understand how they keep finding room for more fingers. I'm sure the politicians must actually want to enjoy it at this point. Probably explains all the blackmail and corruption. There's just no more room for any more fingers. You have to make use of the ones that are up there. Blackmail and corruption turns one finger into a thrill and a good time all at once. I'm happy for them, but yeah, the banker's gambit is the only gambit that really matters. Other gambits, other perspectives, are just basically a trickle down of the actual shot callers, the bankers. Since I'm going to talk about COVID in this next bit, let's go with that. COVID finished off the American economy. If that wasn't your original take, then what that basically means is your opinion was funneled into Fed talking points that were then distributed by the mainstream media. Using fear mostly. You were scared into giving a fuck. Don't let it happen again. When I say Fed talking points, it just means that very smart people come up with ways to justify their bullshit and then use alphabet agencies and non-profits to finish the job. By the time things come to fruition, I can't really see anyone's opinion that hasn't been accounted for. The only real avenue of escape was greed, making people realize they're working for nothing. If not for greed, I don't know if I would have the understanding that I do. Their network of information insemination is usually so effective that they can have us by the balls with multiple contingency plans and decades of hard data. And only their own mistake in overextending the economic burden has given us any sort of chance to change anything. I want you to remember that. They even gave us the only chance we have to save ourselves and them. They had us all, every single person on Earth. And to the people who went to the Black Lives Matter protests, tell me what the fucking point was. When bankers can just make risky bets and get bailed out if they lose, or buy you out of any representation or influence if they win, even if we pretend like that didn't already happen decades ago, and make more people struggle to survive, having to steal because of greed, making sure the people you're standing up for will never own anything and have to resort to a life of crime just to survive. And you're protesting the only group of people who are trying to stop that struggle to survive from getting so far out of hand that you can't leave your house without getting robbed. What was the point? How do you plan on stopping police brutality in this instance? By making all fucking crimes legal? Your approach ushers in the technological elite on a fucking red carpet. You'll need robo-cops to protect you from your own astroturfed stupidity. And I'll end up being conscripted after your fellow citizens get drafted. But don't worry. The person warning you is fucking blue or red. He's a lefty, he's a Republican, he's a Democrat, he's a fucking progressive. All the way to the fucking gulag. Now, I've already explained to you how the economy is going to fall to shit unless America takes over around half the world and just pays its debts with no overhead, using half the world's GDP to get it done within 10 years. Soon, we'll cover people like Mark Zuckerberg. I've talked about how wars have priced me out of the economy, and bank bailouts. Really, for some reason, lots of big disasters. That's a strange coincidence. To the people that say they were priced out of a house by immigration, I've explained to you a multitude of different problems, all with fairly simple solutions, which is to stop profiteers from being fuckwits. Politicians have literally signed off on our downfall over the last 50 years. Most of us are working for table scraps today. I've started ignoring use-by dates. Use-by dates are for rich people. If I buy it, it's getting eaten. I have what could be described as a four-legged fridge. Depends on your nationality. Anyway, do you think immigration, or lack thereof, will stop fuckwits from being fuckwits? The whole point seems to be to keep you poor and uninformed, because war is the most profitable thing and you can't be sent to war as easily if you are not poor and are well informed. And coincidentally, if you are well informed, there's probably less chance of you being poor. So nobody in government wants to help anyone do anything except stay poor. And then it's even worse for the immigrants usually. You're getting media campaigns to convince you there's bad guys overseas. They're actually fleeing from the bad guys overseas. And there's people worrying about their quality of life declining or their areas getting trashed. 100%. Because steps have been taken to limit their opportunities severely. Lots of these people never went to school or learned anything about modern society. They probably don't even know what a bin is. They're just seeing something for the first time that magically empties itself. If one of them is so amazed by the magical self-cleaning box that they decide to hop inside and see where it leads, that's on you. It would also make a good movie. The Chronicles of Africa. The Lion, the Witch Doctor, and the Bin. But none of it is a mistake. At every step, there's some fuckwit. Usually, whole groups of them. What's the point of focusing on a single part of a step? They'll just find another way to do the same thing. Back to disasters pricing me out of shit and Mark Zuckerberg. Try COVID on for size. COVID was brilliant in terms of making sure I might never be able to achieve financial security ever. It was a triple whammy. Rich people couldn't spend their money as easily, and the government made sure they would end up with hundreds of billions more. Equity firms could also manage the vaccine proceeds once the governments coughed up the dough. How much did your government pay for vaccines? Probably as much as the heroes of the pandemic could get from them. They even tried to get sovereign assets put up against potential lawsuits. Now, the problem here was misinformation. You can't have people doing their own research. It's not a flu unless the government says it is.
You could say, oh, it doesn't matter because it's James O'Keefe. And you can put that on top of the thing and it all goes away.
Zuckerberg's role is simple. He bears responsibility for the lack of transparency. He regrets it.
Here you really see a much more direct connection. And I think you see two parts of the censorship industrial complex in the CTIL files that are really important. The first is the use of supposedly non-governmental organizations as the people to go and demand the censorship. That shows an awareness that they know that the government can't be demanding censorship by social media platforms, an awareness that the First Amendment prohibits that.
It's too late now. What happened was the government gave Facebook more favorable policies in order to help them compete with other social media giants like TikTok. When COVID actually came around, it was time to pay them back. I'm going to say that the government did have Facebook in a very difficult position, slightly pinned. Only slightly though.
They need the protection of Big Daddy State Department for favors for their profits. And so they play ball with the State Department's censorship demands in order to preserve that. But they are under the barrel of it. And people like Mark Zuckerberg right now are feeling like they're at their wits' end because they gave the State Department and they gave the Biden administration everything they asked for in terms of censorship demands, and they're still being bullied by them.
Facebook failed to resist assisting the government in tackling misinformation. If after all you've learned in this video, you think misinformation is a buzzword that actually helps us, then that's good. I actually envy that kind of dedication to upholding the values of this beautiful society that we have. I digress. Facebook helped the government silence critics, and now the economy is a dead man walking. Zuckerberg knows this. I want you to understand that since the economy is dead, America has three options. Pay off the central bank debt in order to delay a collapse by taking over half the world, not pay it off and become bankrupted, or send you to war to generate the funds needed to cover the interest payments. It's important to understand that this is America. I'd hate to be a politician in a bankrupted America, let alone a billionaire where everyone knows my face the world over. Zuckerberg is scared shitless. He's not the only one. Expect these billionaires to come on with their shoulda, coulda, woulda public pleas for how good of a person they are and had nothing to do with the way that things ended up so that you don't hang them in the streets. That's a contingency plan. Realistically, it depends when things fall to shit, but that's in case it's soon and there's nowhere to run. Ideally, Trump, with the help of Musk, will delay the collapse for enough time for Ukraine to become a billionaire haven, a place where they can hide from poor people with guns, potentially behind a wall of AI. So the public image is a just in case. Now you know why Musk bought Twitter. As for the politicians, they have a choice. Send you to war, or run the risk of bankruptcy, giving you an opportunity to hunt them down. They've said nothing, which means they're choosing war. As for the billionaire haven, it depends when the economy falls to shit. If it's fully built and they can hide behind AI, then it's going to be every man for themselves outside of those walls. If it's not fully built, then they can relocate the Jewish population there, or they can make sure the Ukrainians are struggling to survive, which will in turn make them greedy and potentially desperate, which will provide a strategic camouflage for the tomfoolery that they want to do. Whether they relocate the Jewish population there depends on how long they can get the Middle East to fight against Israel. At any time, they can help Islamic countries overrun Israel by astroturfing media outlets into getting the public to support Muslims. Alternatively, they can always use Israel to upset the Middle Eastern people into stimulating the American economy, which just so happens to help the bankers. So if the Middle East is willing to have a forever war with Israel for around 5 years or so, then Israel won't get overrun. If the Middle East doesn't fight, then Israel can be relocated to Ukraine in order to be forced to defend itself against Africa. It depends how you interpret their religious text. I'm not kidding. Israel has a claim to Ukraine under the name Greater Khazaria. I'm going to stop here. The bankers need maybe 2 solid wars to make it a smooth transition into their new currency, and they will do anything to get those wars. If the politicians don't give them wars, they're getting sold out to you guys. If the billionaires don't support the politicians, they're getting sold out to you guys. Your reward is seeing the future ahead of time. I hope you like it. The only thing that stops this from being the future is option 4. Building as many houses as possible immediately so that people cannot be sent to war easily by media campaigns. Enough houses to fulfill the 4 basic necessities for all: food, water, shelter, and comfort. If you want to speed up the process of house building, tell Elon Musk to reach out to Jordan Peterson in private. Tell him to explain to Jordan Peterson in full detail how they're planning to get their billionaire haven going, and specifically the types of people that will be inside of those walls when it falls to shit. Then Jordan Peterson can tell him what will eventually happen inside of those walls, no matter what. That's going to be a hilarious conversation to think about. Might as well wear a shirt that says Occupy Graveyard. I just can't believe it's come to this, where I'm hoping that a psychopath who studied empathy rubs brain cells with an empath who studied psychopathy so they can generate enough friction to create a clear view of humanity's inevitable extinction on this trajectory. I gotta laugh. But it's fucked up as well. It's important to understand how the bankers have masterfully cornered everyone that you think represents you. And that's before we factor in any sort of potential island shenanigans, whatever else your officials are utilizing as a coping mechanism that could be caught on film. Also, that they've been well-trained dogs for multiple decades, guarding corporate profits and feigning ignorance. You have no representation. Deal with it. I'd honestly say that any real representation died before World War II, but I can't trust these pricks to tell me the truth of the history that far back. Historians might bitch and complain about that statement, but it's as true as you probably are old and senile. Case in point, World War II itself. This is for the World War II historians. Let's go through the first two arguable proper back and forth skirmishes of that war. The battle for the Westerplatte and the post office in Danzig. Starting at the Westerplatte, the ship opens fire on the Westerplatte, 400 meters out, give or take. The larger shells they were using don't mix properly. That's hilarious. What are you mixing? Poison gas and some sort of ignition source? Hydrogen fluoride and water? Those guys were left for dead. Same with the post office. They were given plans for backup that would never arrive. The hangars were left as bait with older planes. Still capable planes, but older models. The people at the Westerplatte were left to fend for themselves. Post office similar. The problem with the post office is that you don't pour gasoline into the basement of the post office. Sappers blew the wall. I bet you blew the pipes and caused the basement to flood. I bet you threw hydrogen fluoride gas down there and it mixed with the water from the busted piping, and at that point, the hydrogen gas would have ignited very easily. There's no way you're intentionally torching the post office. People need to understand that at this time, the post office is invaluable. It's the communication tower for the area. It's like blowing up a section of the internet. You can't replace it. They fucked up. If I was born sooner, I'd be able to prove it beyond reasonable doubt. You fucking pricks that know exactly what I'm talking about are lucky that I'm late to the party. Saved by the fucking bell. By the way, and I can't emphasize this enough, I mean no disrespect to the dead. War is a waste of human potential. I'm not here to hurt anyone, except for the ones who hurt you, the viewer. Back to the Westerplatte. They held out for 7 days. I'm sure you're full of shit about the numbers on both sides, but there's one part I'm tempted to believe about this, that the Poles defending the Westerplatte had gangrene after days. Dry gangrene, it would have to be. For people who aren't familiar with gangrene, it would usually take weeks to form. There is an exception, when nutrients are blocked from reaching the tissues. Not by a bullet in you, your body can still supply blood around a bullet. But if there's enough of a chemical in your bloodstream, then you can get gangrene within a few days. What fucking chemical? Reports were that many of the soldiers had gangrene. I'm not picking and choosing what I want to believe here. That's way too specific to pull out of your ass. So I'd wager the battleship fired some sort of gas canister that barely mixed in time. So what we're looking at here is gas canisters that have barely gone off because you were too close with your battleship. An absolute rookie error. But it's not like the people on deck knew they were shooting gas canisters. They had no idea. They're just expecting to shell the shit out of that peninsula. Several bombing runs later, and those bunkers are still largely intact, or at least enough to defend properly. Those people at the Westerplatte run out of bullets, if anything, because nobody was ever coming to save them. You had burning trains being sent into the Westerplatte. Why the fuck send a burning train? Unless, of course, it was only meant to start burning once it reached the Westerplatte. One of the carriage drivers jumped off and legged it when he caught on to what was going on. Probably when he sees stupid amounts of flames coming from his train with no explanation as to why. I've got an explanation. Hydrogen gas. Because those trains were filled with hydrogen fluoride gas, and you happened to mix them with water. This whole invasion of World War II is a science experiment gone wrong. They were testing gas on the poles. Nobody was ever coming to save these guys. They were meant to disappear from the record. As for the post office, apparently 1 or 2 fled earlier on in the skirmish. For the ones who remained after things went boom, they all died or were sentenced to death later on. Some died horrifically, but all dead. Couldn't let them live after what happened. As for the Westerplatte, the gas failed. They only got gangrene, so they got to live. You even saluted them. One of the officers couldn't believe they were still alive, knowing full well what had happened to them. The Battle of Westerplatte may as well be the Battle of the Spartans. Those Poles were the 300. You gassed them slowly via incompetence. Multiple plane dive bombing runs. All sorts of insurgent efforts. All sorts of pincer attacks used against you, even despite everything. And they walked out, and you let them live. Someone had a heart, it seems. But back to my point. Those initial battles involved gas of some sort, and I'm pretty sure it's hydrogen fluoride. The way in which the post office blew up and people come out in flames tells me you used a gas that was supposed to be non-flammable. Hydrogen fluoride is non-flammable until it comes into contact with enough water. It makes hydrofluoric acid, which releases hydrogen, and the basement explodes. Can't have them talking about that. Danzig was allegedly under Polish occupation, meaning that the police, who were SS and SA, were quite literally on Germany's side against the Polish people. German newspapers invited to watch. They wouldn't even understand. Lucky them. No. Only if you're in the basement and it magically explodes do you find out that they used something nefarious. In conclusion, you can't really get past the first 2 battles of World War II without smelling poison gas. So my original statement stands. So, as for anything I haven't seen lately, it's not looking good, bruv. What if they weren't gassed in camps, but everywhere else? Wouldn't that explain a lot? As soon as these cunts get something new, they don't use it to help anyone. They just fucking crush us and then do whatever it takes to make sure we can't even unfuck ourselves. An uninformed and irresponsible society can't handle advanced technology, no matter which system you prefer. Communism, capitalism, whatever fucking ism. If people can't control themselves properly, then we're fucked. And that applies from top to bottom. Whatever progress we made is for nothing. You wouldn't come here if prosperity wasn't possible for everyone on Earth. because we wouldn't get far anyway. It would be like a dog chasing its own tail. Nobody even knows how to begin to find out why they were born. Now you understand the world and you can start answering all those questions you've always had. How bad is it in North Korea? Different flavors of the same shit is what North Korea is. As long as people are getting crushed, the bankers don't give a fuck. Even Bukele will be punished for his move and brought back into line. Or, my favorite, why don't billionaires just team up and solve world hunger? Because one of their friends is causing world hunger, and some of these pricks are married to the suffering they cause, after having exhausted every other form of entertainment due to greed and gluttony. So, solving world hunger is no different to fucking another man's wife. But that man has infinite resources to fucking kill you. And many other questions. You're set now. Furthermore, anyone approaching $1 billion in net worth is an absolute cunt. Worst of the worst. It's not envy, it's basic reasoning. Because in order to maintain that kind of wealth in this world as it stands today, you have to be a massive cunt due to the understanding that comes with it. An understanding that you now rival or probably exceed. It really depends. Some of them would learn nothing from this video. So yeah, welcome to hell. That's basically it. I'm just going to summarize some things for the financially well-endowed fuckheads that have been packed into a spliff for the last 2 hours and 40 minutes or so. I don't want to sound envious. Good on you for making money. It's the most important thing there is. Nothing about your life matters more than money. Let's assemble the structure of the world as you can now understand it. To the upper class and the elite class. You've done well to get to where you are in this world. Just kidding. All you guys did was wipe each other's asses and steal everyone else's toilet paper. You guys are the equivalent of a skid mark. My ass would be disappointed if it gave birth to you. The only thing you respect is yourselves. You treat life as a monopoly board and work together to fuck everyone over. Last week, I found a remote for a TV that I chucked out years ago. You cunts are less useful than that remote. The upper class would be people such as politicians. You're wiping someone's ass either directly or by keeping people poor. You worthless dogs know exactly where your money comes from. Almost every politician on earth is a self-replenishing, self-sustaining, senile sack of shit. Hurry up and die. Your death would serve humanity more than your entire life ever did. You cunts are evil, and evil is the only thing that actually deserves to die. With that being said, kill yourself. It's in line with justice. Politicians are just taking the bankers' sloppy seconds, slapping on a few policies, and then calling it a democracy. I have seen one politician go at the bankers. You're excluded. There's probably around one of you. I also don't know which one of us is going to die first. Regardless, governments are completely beholden to bankers. They just come in there pretending to be able to do something, but before you know it, there's some sort of crisis, and all they do is send money to certain companies and borrow from the bankers. The only comparable metric in terms of life with or without a government is technology. That's because there's such an incentive to use it to control and replace people. I'm highly confident humanity would be much further along without any form of government at all. If all we want to do is kill people, do nothing, pretend like we matter while doing jack shit to help anyone, then we don't need to be paying you anything. You weaselly pricks think that people are actually going to fight another war to bail you out of your own greed. You are going to sit there quietly as the media convinces people to go and fight. I only look after myself so that I can watch you die first. I'm going to watch you die first. I want you to think about that as you're dying. I've talked about Ghislaine Maxwell and Robert Maxwell. I would put these people in the elite class. I can clearly see this world wasn't your idea. You cunts are nothing more than troglodytes with enclosed footwear. Not only are you a bunch of useless eaters with nothing of value to add to the world, you are somehow less likable than anal warts. Even the people that work for you hate you. It's not envy, it's their job. If people weren't obsessed with chasing money and struggling to make a living, you couldn't even pay someone to pretend to love you. If I'm unfortunate enough to see one of you world economic fuckheads poison my eye sockets, I know it's going to be a bad week. I truly feel sorry for the camera that has to film you. I'd rather watch dogs get euthanized. Through money, through greed, you guys have been positioned perfectly. You were just invited to hear the great ideas that would shape the world and inspire your actions. And you sat there like obedient dogs waiting for dinner. I have just written no less than 100 biographies. Fuck off to your secret little meetings where you agree not to bump into each other's cocks and sue each other. You cunts couldn't lead an ocean to the sea. I would rather have 10 cents to my name than be any of you. If I was capable of willingly wanting to breathe after living any of your lives, then I don't even want to know what happens behind closed doors. You're doing the world a service by having a secret meeting. The less we even have to think about any of you, the better off we are. 2. Any political commentators that pick one side over the other, I hope you slip on a banana peel into a fresh vat of hydrochloric acid, 20% or above. No teeth, no mess, but slow and enjoyable. Let's get one thing straight. Your whole career is based upon you talking shit and convincing people it's diarrhea. Listening to you is like watching a child draw a house for the first time. If there is an IQ test that can even pick up a signal in your brain, then they should repurpose it to find extraterrestrial life. Even if I ate half my brain willingly, whatever's left still has you covered. Have fun playing dumb when the house of cards falls to the ground. Most of you have backers. Some of you are actual feds, or hand in hand with the feds running damage control. All of you are damage control, willingly or not. If your backers aren't going in bareback, then you've got room to negotiate fair pay. Some of you love debating. If I have more than an hour to live, then your opinion is worthless. You're basically streaming shit within an allotted time frame and being proud of it. I can just eat Indian and Mexican in the same night, and I'll be streaming shit a lot better than you ever have.
In October 2004, Congress passed a bill including a corporate tax holiday, i.e. an opportunity for multinational US companies to bring that cash back to America at an ultra-low tax rate. It was totally bipartisan. In reality, lots of the money went to bigger paychecks for corporate executives. Wars can get started by Democrats, or they can get started by Republicans.
If you're going to sit there and justify a war one way or the other, then you should be drawn and quartered, fed to pigs, and never spoken of again. Don't waste my fucking time refuting your entire life meaning. You get 2 minutes here, and then you can fuck off. You aren't worthy of the space you had
in your dad's balls.
Here's a political solution. Fuck yourselves, and tell your handlers to fuck themselves as well. Because I have gained a better understanding of the world during my time playing RuneScape in my undies than you cunts have ever had in the entire worthless shit-talking sequence of mistakes you call a career. If things fall to shit, I'm saving my stomach acid for one of you dickheads. Because you convinced people that hydrochloric acid is better than sulfuric. And I'm going to prove you right. You'll die smiling. Chelsea grin. Moving on. Regarding tax breaks. No one was meant to get rich except the people who facilitated the system. There's people that enjoy the same privileges that the people at the top do. That's just because there's easier targets. To the middle class, your expenses come at the expense of the working class. There's no way around it. You are comfortable because they are not. To the upper class, you're comfortable for two reasons: freedom of movement or freedom of expression. You either had no restrictions during COVID, or you had no restrictions whenever something bad happens, or you own something that means you can express your opinion openly and honestly without anyone being able to bankrupt you. That's the whole upper class. Above you is the elites that think the plan is to birth a technocratic elite where you guys all live happily ever after. To make the population die out of excessive means and live in a way that prioritizes the earth at the expense of personal freedoms. It seems you put on your big boy pants in order to come up with this one. Thank fuck you birthed the thought that was your own idea. I was genuinely worried whether that was possible or not. You cunts have had less ideas than a toddler in preschool. You think this idea is good, but you didn't count on one thing. Above the elites, everything I've learned points to a group that basically created the entire system we currently enjoy from scratch. To them, you cunts are nothing more than fantastic monopoly players. They gave you your position because their system is the one that glorifies greed. They gave you everything you have, and their justification is that they can use it against you to destroy us all. And that's exactly how it's going, and I guarantee most of you are now scared of this. In order to remain 10 steps ahead of you, they take inspiration from the father of evil himself. And once there is no easier targets, you're the targets. The greatest evil asks the question: if humanity has no ability to decide its own fate for itself, will the Creator then intervene? It's a simple question. What it means is, if a normal person has no chance to find their most meaningful self, will the Creator make a decision that involves restoring the ability of humanity to once again have the chance to decide for itself? Your technocracy coincides with the ability to take that decision away, and you think it's a coincidence. But there's one thing you didn't count on. They hate themselves for being human because they hate everything with meaning. Above you, at the top of the world, is a group of people that only want to destroy everything. That's the difference between you and them. So, find them before everyone else dies, because you'll be next. If you give them the opportunity to kill you, they won't do it, because you have power they can use to kill others. Until that stops being the case, you can continue wiping their ass in peace. You will have your pipe dream of a technocratic elite, and then, right when you're about to achieve it, you will realize that they wanted to kill you in the most spectacular way possible, by getting the Creator to send us all to a watery grave. Again. To the upper class and the elite. Get fucked. Miserable pieces of shit. 1 in a million of you has done good things, but there's less than a million of you, so that means you're all useless pieces of shit. 1 hair follicle out of my entire scalp doesn't solve anything. I honestly hope I get to watch you die live on television. That's the only good thing about you having any notoriety at all. Most of you are old. Most of your kids are softer than a sloppy cunt. They won't want to follow in your footsteps. They'll do it out of spite for the world because you taught them how to live. I hope some of them actually realize how this world works when they're young. That will mean they can be 8 steps ahead of you and may not waste the rest of their lives. If only you could teach them something worth learning. What a tragic situation. It's like watching a gorilla in the zoo. The poor bastard doesn't know where it is or who its parents are. There's nothing of value that comes from a printer that ends up in your hands. Your employees are the only thing that makes your existence noteworthy. Honestly, without them, you wouldn't exist. This is objectively true. Enough rambling about your entire life. Let's skip to the facts. Almost all of you, except for that 1 in a million that never existed in the first place, are absolute pieces of shit. Not only do I know that for a fact, now everyone else does as well. I haven't really left any room for doubt. I hope some of you can't see this and come at me seething and molding about it. I won't say a fucking word to you dickheads. There's nothing more to say. You cunts don't deserve oxygen. You truly don't. Deep down, that's why you're actually mad. For all your money, you truly don't know shit from clay. I hope you guys end up butchering each other over how little you know about anything. All you could do is fly around a light like a mosquito, around a jar of shit like a fly. You guys are flies to me. I'd rather have the jar of shit. The mere thought of your existence is the only reason that I want to die. Other than that, I'm fine. I don't mean this next part as a joke. Pick a religious text and study it, because the only way you're going to achieve anything worthwhile in life is by having our Father guide you. That goes for your kids as well. It's their only chance to be guided towards not following the trash that preceded them straight to the dump with the rest of you worthless maggots. This is more attention than you deserve. Suck my fucking dick. I'll flop it out wherever you want. Don't worry about whipping out the platinum card. This one's on the house. You just let me know and buy some nice lipstick. I'm sure you can afford it. You might even own a lipstick company. As far as all of you cunts are concerned, Daddy's home. Go and do your fucking homework. This work was completed before the November election. It's been sitting on my desk for months. I recently added the trophy wife section and the middle class section because things weren't changing quick enough and we're running out of time. Other than that, I've changed a handful of words. Because bankers run this world, not politicians. And when you understand that, you can just follow the money around and figure out what's going to happen next. You have to get everyone to a fundamental base of understanding that far exceeds any kind of understanding that has ever come before it. You have to basically blow everyone out of the water all at the same time with what you know to even have a chance to save this world. Technology, politics, religions. You have to blow them all completely out of the water with what you know single-handedly, to the point where they don't even know what to do with you or how to even begin to comprehend what you've said in its entirety and how you've put it all together. It's basically impossible. Give me 10 days. You'll see in these words the truth. That humanity has never had the breathing space to be true to itself for going on 400 years. And then you can decide if you want to go and fight another special military conflict. To the pricks in suits, don't blame me. You wanted the people to care about you. The people that would give you the shirt off their back if you asked. You wanted them to care. You fooled them again and again. Well, I'll make sure they're well informed. You degenerate fucks are going to earn your paycheck soon. And your pension. You're going to earn everything you have. Wait and see. Personally, I wouldn't want to be you. But I never would have become you. Because you deserve much worse than to face well-informed people. And you know it. Start running. It's over. The game is no longer yours to play. It will play you. You will regret your entire life's deception, and you will regret all that you own. It will turn to ashes in your mouth, as you have turned so much meaning into nothingness from the ashes that you expelled from your own mouth. I will give you a warning. What you have done to others, I will make sure is done to you. All of you who hold positions of power, and the best of you will endure for your children. And the worst of you will tell your children that it's not my fault. Because it's not. It's your fault. You're all complicit as far as I'm concerned. Because you did nothing to stop things from spiraling out of control. There's nothing special about me. I just give a fuck. And it stands out from you because you don't give a fuck. Now you will give a fuck. From the economists that come on the morning news to talk up a rigged and failing economy, all the way to the fuckwits in big fancy buildings singing sweet nothings. I am what is required. And your heart sinks because it knows what is required, even if you do not. Almost all of you were okay with sending humanity to war despite having enough knowledge to understand that this is incorrect. So you didn't say anything. Now, you're on the other side. Here they come. Enjoy your war. The worst part is, if I say my piece entirely, every single secret society you've ever heard of will be reduced to nothing more than putting the fries in the bag. Also, nothing against fast food workers. It's more so the perspective of someone looking down on someone else due to what they know. I'm going to reduce the prominent secret societies down to basically sharing between them a more accurate historical recount. They can keep that much because some of them were actually formed with decent intentions. However, in the modern world, they're all fucked, just consolidating secrets and power between each other. After I'm done, the best thing for the Masons to do would be to break down your clubhouses, flatten them, and use that land to the betterment of humanity to represent at least a portion of your organization's original intentions. And it's similar for the Jesuits. You guys could have been good, but it's over now. We're too close to the end. You can then both largely decide which version of history humanity becomes aware of. I'll leave that to you both, but even that is more than you deserve. On to the problem. If I go beyond this, there would be many prominent people that just leave this world overnight and leave behind their children without a father or a mother. And so, for their children, the children of the most worthless and selfish plagues of physical mass that this solar system has possibly ever sustained, this video ends here. If only you cunts didn't have children. The only thing you won't leverage is exactly what just saved your life. That's the only reason I don't want you hunted to the ends of the earth for all the things that you've put us through. Because in 15 to 20 years, your children will come to me and they'll be all grown up and they'll say, oh, so-and-so was my dad and he killed himself and I realize it's because of things you said. Was there any other way you really could have went about things? Was that the only way? Did my mum or my dad have to die? No, kid.
But they fucking deserve to be hunted down and slaughtered like pigs, because that's exactly the fate they've left everyone else to, who isn't in their little special fucking rich cunt group.
I promise you that. And when you're all grown up, I want you to remember that you're the reason I stopped here.
Tell your parents to do their fucking jobs!
Hey viewers, I'm off my head. I'm on beer, Kirks from the bottle, about $45 a case there, brother. Got 3 condoms filled with ice in my stomach about to